Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back with another live stream. Sorry, I changed the time a couple times. Hey, how's it going, everyone? But just playing some golf this weekend, and last night just got busy. But I'll wait, a couple minutes to see if people are around and up for having a dialogue. So I'll kind of go again through the usual routine. Um, I will talk a bit about flat Earth, ball Earth, go through a chapter in the Bible, Luke chapter 21. I just picked it out a few minutes ago, and just leave it up for whatever people want to interact and talk about and all that kind of stuff. So there was a good hangout earlier with Jesse, Toady, George, and others, and so just want to give some of my summary thoughts on that as well. But it's good. I think that there's more and more fervor. I think there's more and more energy, behind both sides. And I think that eventually people will just get tired of hearing the same old arguments and same old debates. I don't know if that's quite exhausted yet. There's still a market for those type of exchanges in Hangouts and stuff. And, I have a feeling it won't last much longer than this year. That those debates will happen in that manner, and I think just people will literally just get exhausted unless there's like new people coming in, and want to just argue back and forth. But I think that hangout was particularly good, and a couple that I've been in recently, where they it's still just a person's opinion, looking at images and all that kind of stuff, but it's starting to morph more into tests, and even if there's sparring during the debate, I hate to even call some of them debates, just ad hom sessions, I guess. But at least if a test or two is at least brainstormed throughout the exchange, to me, again, that bears some amount of fruit going forward and redeems that experience at least somewhat. So, hey, Mies Kang, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. Do you mind just letting me know if the audio is good, man? Is it coming through okay? Good to see you, man. I'm gonna go through the usual sort of setup. Just talk about. I was just kind of talking a little bit about flat Earth, ball Earth, and the hangout earlier on Jose's channel, which I got through most of it. I had to skim through some of it. Kind of got boring, but I know that I was mentioned a few times, and I appreciate Toady taking time to make a presentation and stuff. And I think that kind of the cool thing I would say about information in general, not just related to this debate, is becoming more and more compartmentalized, like just by various things like Wikipedia, and also just YouTube as a form, in my opinion, of information compartmentalization. It's just all the news clippings now, I can hear them in like 2 or 3 minute sound bites, get the gist of it, and then move on. And so to me, having people like that, whether we agree with them or not, being experts in their field, again, in internet land, no reason to trust anybody really, but they're free to share information. And then the cool thing is that I want to take from people like Toady and Jesse and George and others and Rumpus is get them to say things that are useful. And then to me, we then can take what they say and not, in a necessarily malicious way, but we can then go and then examine their claims, against people around us that we do trust, or people that are unbiased, like engineering firms and all that kind of stuff. And so basically, just to summarize that whole hangout earlier, what I'm hoping is one really, really good data point. Even if the Earth is proven flat with that test or shown to be flat, to me, there's no reason to rest on our laurels. Like, it's good to try a few others and different parts of the world and all that. And obviously, if it's shown to be a curve, we would want to really examine the test and do it on our own and do it in different places and get a diversity. But fundamentally the using GPS to me, as far as what I could brainstorm with the like off the shelf stuff, something that won't cost like an exorbitant amount of money, is a really good option. I think that it's good to explore anything with like radio frequency. I think lasers have kind of been done. I think that they can continue to be used more and more. I guess as they get more and more expensive, they become more and more predictable in their shooting pattern. And so, it could reaffirm and tighten up some of the tests done in the past, which do indicate, that we live on a flat surface by John D. and others. But like Thrive and Survive and all those kind of, videos that are out. And so, I think that it doesn't hurt to do a whole bunch, and hopefully even simultaneously. But the cool thing about GPS is, in a way, it gets, using some of the ballers' own stuff against them, so to speak. It's like the concept is very, very simple. You take GPS measurements over a water body and, just as wide as possible, like just go many, 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 many miles and get a very, very diverse set of readings. And so when we do plot it, there's going to be a huge amount of curve that will be very, very visible and obvious. But the important thing is that we can't just plot GPS points on their native coordinate system without having a reference. And so we would need to then collect GPS points along a known straight line, get GPS along that straight line. Could be a 2D surface, a plane, but let's just start with a line. And we need to plot that on that as well. And so the idea is that if those GPS points acquired over water, which we all know is flat, level, straight, however you want to say it, once those are plotted on that grid, and it can be any grid at this point, because we're going to plot something else to calibrate it. So you could literally take those GPS points, plot it in anything really, in Excel, in MATLAB, in wherever, you can plot data points, lots of software, Tableau. Because the nice thing here is we're also going to get GPS points along a straight line and plot those as well. And so if you plot the initial points on the GPS on the boat on these on this grid and it's curved, but you also plot a straight line on that grid and it's curved, then the Earth is flat. And so it's just a way to calibrate the data. And then so if you plot those GPS from the boat on that grid and it's curved, and then you plot the straight line on that grid and it stays straight, then the Earth can be believed to be curved. And so, it's just a form of calibration. It's the same thing with Bob Nodell and his gyroscope. We ask Baller simple questions. If that gyroscope is proving the Earth is spinning, how is it calibrated? Like, did someone put it on something else that we know is moving and show us that, yeah, it is, reliably showing us things that move, and this is the way that it works. And then so when you ask a baller that question, they think, no, that's absurd. Why would we want to do that and stuff like that? Well, that's just basic science. That's just rigor, and that's just common sense, really. It's kind of alarming to me that people haven't thought of this up until now. My name gets tossed in, which is fine. I mean, I proposed it, but to me, again, this is sad, from both sides, to be honest, that it's needed, for somebody to say these kind of things, which are absurdly, to me, ridiculously obvious, that anybody who genuinely wants to come up with the shape of the Earth in an unbiased way and display it would do this. They don't just collect points and then plot them and then be like, oh, look, there it's curved or there it's flat. There's got to be a way. You need to calibrate those results to remove any kind of bias. And so, there's that's that, and again, I don't know who's even going to do this or if anybody really cares. But to me, again, it just, by the way the world is, the data is going to get more and more precise, hopefully, because some of the tests the ballers are doing right now, it's not even hitting the dartboard. It's like, it's just their data points that are just ambiguous, could lead to many, many different geometries, and useless in my opinion, and some of the stuff that flat earthers do would also be the same, but they're just all data points. And some of the data points on either side are not even hitting the dartboard. And so a test like this with GPS and others would at least be hitting the dartboard and getting close to bullseye. I would say that there is enough evidence for flat Earth that nothing like this would really be needed. But the thing that's difficult is like ballers will just say that light curves around the Earth. And so you could keep showing them stuff further and further in the distance, like Anthony Riley's 50-kilometer observation, and they're just going to keep saying it's looming, and they're just going to keep saying, well, no, that thing is just, light travels around the Earth. And then they'll show us images of stuff being blocked from bottom up, and then we'll just say it's perspective and other optical things. And so it's like that test bed is a very, very difficult one to get any kind of unique solution. And so I think just, again, it's ambiguous. So people would have to upgrade to different things that will get closer and closer to the bullseye. And, that's just, that's where we are, in this. And so the images and all that, to me, are not conclusive, and a lot of times lead to more and more questions than they're meant to answer. And so, we have to explore other options. And so GPS is a good one. It's a good foundation as well anyway, because to me, some people who put forth energy towards that will potentially get something for free if they map GPS along a straight line. That'll be useful for a drone test. And so that's where I see this going. I think more and more I'm just going to get in these hangouts, again, only if I'm bored, but at least spend a few minutes of the hangout brainstorming tests. And so, Lewis, I believe his last name's Hackett, in one of the tests talked about shooting, lasers towards one another on a boat, and then having the boat, sail in opposite directions. And then in a flat scenario, the lasers would always stay roughly lined up. And then, on a curved Earth, they would both start shooting up. Even if there was like divergence of the beam, you would still, generally see that the laser is moving upwards. And you could even probably predict that rate, actually, that they would increase based on the speed of the boats. So, that's a good one. That's a good one. And all the other yelling that we did back and forth, to me, was really pointless, except for that little nugget, little test that he recommended. Doesn't involve any kind of optics or hand waving or anything. Obviously, you have to, like being able to have a sheet to register the laser and find the laser that it's still pointing and hitting something is not easy, because as you get further and further away, the laser is not just very precise in terms of what it's hitting. But again, let's say with an expensive laser, a good quality one mounted on two boats, identical boats going away from one another, a test like that is good, and leaves less and less room for ambiguity. And the beautiful thing about that one is it can be reproduced. And the cool thing about that one is you can do it, in along this direction. You can do it along this direction, along this direction. You can do it in all different directions on water, and you better get the same result, And so I think that, it again leaves very, very little room for ambiguity. It's just fighting time, and money. And this is where I think the spiritual aspect of this comes in for me personally, is that this is a spiritual thing, because obviously, if for me that the Earth is indeed flat, to me the Bible is true. I mean, there's nothing left in my mind. There's the mark of the beast and World War III, which in my opinion are right around the corner. I mean, you could argue that it's happening right now with what's going on in Israel. There's a war going on, currently as we speak this weekend in the Holy Land. And all these things are prophesied. There will be wars, actual wars, and rumors of wars. And we see the actual wars happening. And there's been rumors of war for many, many years. But the Bible's true. I mean, again, we have to obviously still have faith. The mark of the beast may not happen in our lifetime, or it may still not happen. And then the Bible is not true. But, to me, it's like, if the Earth is flat, some spirit has to be behind the deception. And in my opinion, it's the God of the Bible. Only he could architect something like this for his purpose. We pray that it's a righteous purpose. And but if the Earth is a ball, then the Bible's not true. And especially if it's shown in many, many different tests that we can all do ourselves. We can engage an engineering firm to do and all that kind of stuff. Then the Bible's not true. For me personally, there's no reason to look at it anymore. And I won't spend more time in it. I certainly will not do these live streams, and I'll just go back to being a baller, and all that kind of stuff. But my point was that the reason, in my opinion, these things have not happened or even been thought of till now is it's a spiritual thing, because this problem is not really that hard to solve. It's not easy. It's not like 2 + 2, but it's not that hard, if you have time and resources. And so, again, the ballers have a huge amount of, people behind them, and they have no reason to put even a penny forward to investigate this, which is fair enough. It's not their responsibility. But this is where God comes in, and this is where I think that this is a spiritual thing where if there were one or two or a few or many, rich flat earthers or people genuinely curious about finding the shape of the earth in an unbiased way, this would have been solved a long time ago. And rappers like B.O.B., they wouldn't be crowdfunding for money from us. They would have just taken a little bit of their money and figured this out a long time ago, and others like Bob Nodell and these people who pay money for a ring laser gyroscope or something like that. I mean, they would just get a drone or do one of these tests that people are talking about using GPS and engage an engineering firm, get 3 engineering firms independent, tell them what they need to do. They need to create a straight line and map GPS along it, give us that data. They need to then go take GPS readings on a boat in various water bodies of this expanse and do it in multiple water bodies, give us the data, and ask 2 or 3 engineering firms to do the same thing, and then plot all the same data on the same grid. And then, what else is there left? There's a massive amount of data, and you just look at it. There's nothing really complicated at that point. And then all you're worried about at that point is, first you plot the first one from the first engineering company, get a result. Plot the second one, get a result. Plot the third one, get a result. Plot all 3 together and show that they all agree. And if all 3 of them agree, there's very little room for ambiguity at that point. It's, again, I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's in the 90th percentile. It's pretty much solved at that point. So to me, this is very, very spiritual. And, I think all we can do is, engage people of fair tests that will result in a unique solution. And the one certainly that the ballers are proposing, up to what I've seen now, don't. Like putting sticks in the ground is not good. The sun, we're already arguing, is nowhere near 93 million miles away. So we can't start by assuming that if we're going to measure curvature. So that's dismissed. And, all the things related to like the stars and the heavenly bodies and all that kind of stuff. Again, their distance and their position in the sky is dubious, so we have to keep the tests, quote unquote, down to earth. And I think it's good accountability for both sides to continue to brainstorm tests that are down to earth and financially feasible. But even the ones that are not, it's not wrong to brainstorm them. Even with me and that guy Lewis talking, we disagreed and bounced back all these different conjectures on all these images. But at the end of the day, he believes that if 2 boats sail away from one another, the lasers will start shooting up, because the earth is curved. And then I believe that the lasers will just pretty much stay level, depending on the waves. But for the most part, the boats are not like tipping. The boats are not tipping forward or leaning forward or anything like that, because water is flat, straight, and level. So that's where we're at. I see that, I'll continue to involve myself wherever I can to help with coming up with tests, because I just don't think it can continue on like this, where 2 people just give their evidences and then say the other person's dumb and then, walk away, which obviously I've done my fair share of. But I think it's time for both sides really to, up the ante, and really come up with a test that is fair And, if we're a spiritual people, we have to believe God is behind this. God can make every single person on the earth dishonest and lie to us and tell us something. If we go to multiple engineering firms and they're all just being deceptive and lying to us and stuff, and we could even look at the straight line that they're making and look at it and be like, yeah, I mean, it looks pretty straight, and we can go use, watch while they're doing their GPS measurements and stuff and be like, yeah, it looks pretty straight. They're collecting the data, and they're even allowing us to go and, watch them do it, which there would be no reason to not if we're paying them to do it. I mean, that's how much more can God deceive us? That's kind of the point where I'm at. It's like if the earth is indeed flat, God has deceived us quite a bit. And it's not wrong for us to say like, okay, God, if you are real, we need you at some point, because we're just getting fist fed a bunch of nonsense daily, not just about the shape of the earth, but everything else. And, obviously this is all his timing if he's real. But to me, it's very, very fair, to start upping the ante and raising the level of sophistication on these tests. And I think that that's inevitable. And me personally, I'm very excited for that because the data points that we have are good. Certainly on the flat earth side, very, very good, very, very compelling, very, very, to me, plenty to motivate someone to doubt, their ball earth model / reality. And all that kind of stuff. So, I just think the more we get buy-in or ideas from the other side and then kind of negotiate and ensure that they're unique solutions or very, very close to them that will, come out of it, then, the debate will take on more of a technical nature instead of mudslinging, which again, I've taken part in, but, I pray that, God just kind of turns that dial down with me and, allows me to, engage in more fruitful discussions. So sorry, I'm a bit behind in the chat. I just wanted to give that sort of preamble. So we got the Mies Kang here. Good to see you. ETT. Good to see you, buddy. Seek and Find. What's up, man? I told a ball earther I'm full of understanding. Yeah, ETT, we're not about violence, man. They're let them play that game. But ultimately, ball earth will win. The Bible says that the end times will be ruled by a beast, and if the Bible's true, it will be ruled by a beast who has the ambition to microchip everybody, and that's an atheist agenda. So at the end of the day on earth, atheism will win and be victorious, but ultimately everybody who continues along that path will be destroyed. Bob the Science Guy's here. What's up, man? Splurge. I don't think I've ever seen you in these chats, but good to see you. Captain Will, what's up, man? James Mays. Good to see you, man. Jonathan Doherty. What's up, man? Yeah, Mies Kang, I think everybody can come up with these. I think just as people are sort of thinking about this more and, coming up with their reality, changing their reality, trying to, solidify their reality, I think it's good, for everybody to be like, yeah, if I did have infinite money and a drone that could do this or a laser that could do this, or if I had a boat or a helicopter or whatever, this is what I would do, for myself. And so few of us have the time, and even fewer people have the money to do these kind of tests. But to me, it does not hurt to brainstorm them. You don't have to be a rocket scientist by any means, because again, the nice thing about this, the concept of the tests are very simple. Implementation might take a little bit of care, and precision, but conceptually, we're dealing with a very, very simple problem, extremely simple problem. And many, many harder problems have been solved in human history, way harder than this one. There's harder problems that have been solved in the last year. I wouldn't even say a year, in the last few months than the shape of the earth. Many, many harder problems in computer science, in biology, chemistry, physics, everything. Just way harder problems in this, medicine, all that kind of stuff. Mighty Manny, good to see you, brother. As always. Can't remember if I said James Mays or not. Yeah, I did. Sorry. Good to see you. All right. Yeah, man. Good to see everybody. So, I'm just going to go through Luke chapter 21. If anybody has, just any, thoughts as I read, have any questions or whatever, just feel free to put them in the chat, or, if anybody wants to jump on near the end, wants to share, anything, testimony, just thoughts on anything really. I'm very open to that. It was a pleasure having Mies Kang last weekend, and I see Seek and Finds getting his channel up and all that, and it's a blessing, man. The more that people, good-natured people, which I feel you guys are, and others on the baller side as well, we just ask questions. That's all we're doing. We're being crucified for asking questions. That should not be wrong. We should not be crucified for asking questions and questioning our government when they're questioning their own position. They don't even know what the result of quantitative easing will be, and this whole fractional banking experiment that's gone way wrong. And obviously, in my opinion, God's behind it, but they're questioning their own policies. So like they're inviting us to question them. So we're just asking questions. It's not wrong. And in fact, this society, to kind of get on my soapbox a little bit, is anti-questions. To me, it's pro-gay, it's pro being effeminate, it's pro-atheism, and it's pro-stupidity. And the God of this Bible does not want any of that. The opposite of that, antipodal to that. So never stop doing that and asking those questions until an individual is satisfied with the answer. And may that continue on in the afterlife. That's all I would say that we can do. If we're dealing with an infinite entity who created the earth, whether it be a flat earth or a ball earth, one would think that all he would want us to do is ask questions more and more and learn about him. However, that entity cannot be the God of the Bible if the earth is a ball, because the Bible is a flat earth book. That's just very, very obvious. The more I look into it, and the more things that more verses that are I read, even if they're not directly related to the shape of the earth, make it very, very clear that we're dealing with a flat earth. And one verse I wanted to bring up before I start, which is and I have a feeling ETT would be familiar with this one, is and Jeremiah 31:37 says, "Thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will cast off all of the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith the Lord." That's Jeremiah 31:37 saying, I'll just read it once more. "Thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will cast off all of the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith the Lord." So God's saying if the dimensions above and below can actually be measured, he will cast off his people, his chosen people. And so that alone proves that the Bible does not support all this nonsense that Fight the Flat Earth and others are saying, that they know the extent of the universe and making up all these dimensions of the universe and all this kind of stuff, like light years away and all this madness. God is saying that's not for man to know the full extent of that, because he would cast off his people. He would cast off his chosen people, the Israelites. And so to kind of ensure that, like I said, the God of the Bible supports a flat earth and not being able to search out those things now, is Romans 8:39 says, "Nor height nor depth," so no high or not low, "nor height nor depth nor any other creature, even a beast, like a beast system, shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in our Christ Jesus, our Lord. Let me read that once more. Romans 8:39 says, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus, our Lord. So those are two very, very good verses that just go back to. This is the God of the Bible is behind this deception. He's letting people think, or telling us, that they have searched out the heavens and the depths of the earth when they have not. That means that the God of the Bible is a liar. If those dimensions are actually accurate, they're not. They sound like gibberish when they say them. They're coming out of the lips of people who are not intelligent, and they're coming out of atheists. It's like, I don't know how many more dings a person could have against them. That stuff is nonsense. So the Bible says that the heights and the depths cannot be understood by us to their fullness, or else God would cast off his people. And we know that that is not the case, that God would not do that. And so just go back to those if you ever have time, especially those who are, in this quote unquote flat earth, ball earth thing debate, and with the Bible kind of as part of the reason why. Those are very good verses to come back to. Credit to the Hebrews for bringing those out a while ago. Job, this is a good one. ETT brings out again, Job 38:18. Job 38:18. Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare if thou knowest it all. So God is using, again, a rhetorical device. Job is using a rhetorical device. These are things that are not for man to know. All of it, and again, one of the many, many reasons is we'd be overwhelmed. Imagine if we knew currently right now with 1,000 million% certainty that the earth is indeed flat. I would be overwhelmed. I wouldn't go outside. I would be very, very weary about who I'm around, and who I interact with. And quite honestly, I wouldn't be here. I would be very, very unstable, and only unstable if the earth is flat. If the earth is a ball, I would just be apologetic, humble, go back to my ball earth life, get rid of the Bible, get it as far away from me as humanly possible. And, I would just move on, but if the earth is indeed flat and it's known, especially worldwide, it would be overwhelming. And so I believe that this is God doing things on his time, and we have to be patient. And I'm speaking to myself the most when I say that. We have to be patient, but we also have to be bold and know that if the earth is whatever it is, God will give us the tools, if he wants to reveal that to ourselves and reaffirm it, and also broadcast it if he wants to do that. He may not. I honestly don't know what will come first, a flat earth, absolute, undeniable proof, or the mark of the beast. I don't know. And if I were to guess, if the Bible's true, obviously all of this hinges on the Bible being true, because both of those things are in there. I suspect the mark of the beast will come first. ETT's like, God is a flat earther. Agreed with that. The God of the Bible is absolutely a flat earther. Voynich, what's up, man? Good to see you. The Creator. I haven't seen you around, man, but good to have you here, even if you are on the other side. Tom Servo, kind of see your name around, but how's it going, man? So I'm going to get to Luke chapter 21, and then I'll leave it open for just any kind of concluding thought. So Luke 21 reads, and he looked up and saw the rich men casting their gifts into the treasury, and he saw also a certain poor widow casting in tither 2 mites. This is their tithe. And he said, of a truth I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast in more than they all. Something about the God of the Bible and widows. It's mentioned in James as well. And this is kind of a random story, and this is not to brag by any means, but I remember once years ago, I sent one of my old phones to a woman that I used to work with years ago, and her son wanted a new phone or something like that, and I just didn't need mine. And this is not a boast, because it's a very, very, small gift. I didn't need it anymore, but I just remember, like, it was kind of random. Like, it went through the UPS or the delivery service, and then I got a notification saying something about how the phone, there was a delay or something of like 1 day or something to get to the person, and then they just refunded my whole shipping cost, which was about the cost of the phone. Honestly, it wasn't even that expensive, but I just thought that was very, very interesting, and again, that for those who are coincidence theorists out there, it's just a coincidence, but I just find there's something about the God of the Bible and people who are alone, and I'm not saying that this woman who's a widow is like, lonely and just, living a pathetic life. It's not like that, but there's something about the God of this Bible. My point is people who are alone, and people who are struggling, and are overwhelmed, even though it doesn't seem like God cares, because there's so much of that in the world. The God of this Bible has a heart for widows, and people who are taking on, huge responsibility, looking after people by themselves. For all these have of their abundance. For all these have in their abundance cast in unto the offerings of God, but she of her penury hath cast in all the living that she had. This woman made an incredibly sacrificial offering, enough to get in the Bible and enough to impress the God of the universe. To me, this is an incredible thing, an incredible honor, and speaks to how much, Jesus himself, was moved by this, for him to take time to make an example of her incredible faith. And as some spake of the temple, how it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he said, as for these things which ye behold, the days will come in which there shall not be left one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. To me, this to me is very, very layered. This is prophetic. It's the same thing. If the Bible is true, we are living in days which are very, very likely to be ones where every stone in America will be overturned and thrown down, as it says here in verse 6. And so, as much as we need to go about our day and, do things and take care of people and all that kind of stuff, like, this poor widow did as well, be generous as much as we can and all that kind of stuff. Jesus also says in the same, really a couple sentences later, that destruction is right around the corner. And so don't get too attached to these things. And so it's an incredible contrast within a couple sentences. And they ask him, saying, Master, but when shall these things be? And what sign shall there be when these things shall come to pass? And he said, Take heed that ye not be deceived, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and the time draweth near. Go ye not therefore after them. He's letting us know that there will be people that will come and say, I will be your savior, I will be your deliverer. And it's not like they're going to come, doing miracles necessarily and hanging on the cross or anything like that. It's a more sort of practical thing. If a person is coming to us as the Christ, they're coming to us as a person who is our savior, who we count on, who we lean on. That could be, our significant other. It could be people at work. It could be our boss. It could be the government, and all that kind of stuff, And so I think that it's, don't just, when you read this, think that, it's just, another religious figure. It's deeper than that. It's, to me, the Bible speaks of in many, many places that the major competition for God is actually money, and people who pursue money and wealth. And so anything or anyone that will offer that is a potential to be a Christ to us. And may we reject everything that is not God himself. And so Jesus says here to be very aware that will be the case. And he asks us to not be deceived. But when ye shall hear of wars and commotions, be not terrified, for these things must first come to pass, but the end is not by and by. So this, to me, again, speaks exactly to the days that we live in now. Persian Gulf War, there's all these conflicts going on, Syria, Yemen, in Africa. There's been, stuff going on for many years. And now in Israel, I was reading a post on Zero Hedge that, according to the news, there's shots fired, this weekend. And so to me, again, I feel very much that we're living in those days. No one knows the exact day or hour, but I'm pretty sure we're in the ballpark. Then said he unto them, nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and great earthquakes shall be in diverse places, and famines and pestilence, and fearful sights, and great signs shall there be from heaven. And so the famines and pestilences to me are happening everywhere. It may not be in a mass scale like in Venezuela, but this has been happening for a long time. So in my opinion, the end times were in effect beginning in Jesus's time, where God began to infuse evil to a greater and greater degree. And to me, it's reached its peak. And certainly the deception has maximized in the days that we live in now. But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. He's essentially saying they're going to get you. They're going to ask you where your obedience lies. And again, this is all the will of God. God is doing this. Anytime that we are experiencing any kind of persecution or trial, especially on the macro scale, God is doing that. He wants us to know what our allegiances truly are, what we will fall for. And he's measuring that. And we would hope that he doesn't give us more than we could handle. The Bible speaks that he doesn't. But he is doing this. And to me, the ultimate and final test will be those faithless people who take the mark of the beast. And God warns us to not do that and to not even co-sign its development. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate before what ye shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. And ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolks and friends. And some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And so there are people probably, in this live stream who've had to deal with this, and I've had a small amount in my life where, people in my family, just don't, believe the Bible or believe it to be true in an authoritative way. And I've had to, put boundaries, between their beliefs and mine, and sometimes complete separation, because we do not see the world the same way. If we believe that the end times are ruled and marked by a beast system, and to us it's plainly obvious, and others don't want to acknowledge it, there's not much to talk about, and for me personally, there just isn't much to talk about. I have people in my life who I, have work with or I engage with about, sports or different things. It's very structured, but on any other deeper topics, and especially if things like politics or the economy or anything comes up, there's not going to be very much common ground unless people know and believe that we're ruled by a beast. Because to me, it's obvious. It's just like this table is right in front of me. It's just like I know that our system in the world right now is run by a beast, and it's evil, and it's filled with lies, and it's filled with stupid people. It's not even like it's like people are trying to necessarily get rich and stuff like that. That would actually kind of make sense. It's just confusion. It's just enslavement to an excessive degree that is not stopping. And so if it's not stopping, to me, the only reason could be something spiritual, because it doesn't make sense. Because just common sense says that if you beat somebody over the head enough, they'll just give up, at some point. You will not be able to rule over them for much longer. And so that's, to me, is what's happening, sometimes even literally, to people being abused physically, or in sort of a indirect way, that people are just being abused, and overused, over leveraged, and all that kind of stuff. And literally their bank accounts and all that are being stolen from on a daily basis, and they can't do anything about it. And it's not getting better. It's the government's not on our side. In case people haven't figured it out, some of the ballers haven't figured this out yet. The government's not on our side, and that's not going to change according to the Bible, because if the Bible is true, the God of the Bible is architected a beast to run the world, and it's at its peak at the end, and there's no stopping it. It's a beast. It doesn't know how to stop. It's not compassionate. It doesn't know what people should be doing. It doesn't give people good work to do, creative work to do. It's a beast. It's only allowed to be carnal and pursue physical things, lust and pleasure, and all that kind of stuff, And so that's what it is, and that's what it's trying to create everybody to be in line with that, and that's what we live in now. It's obvious to many of us now. Okay, so Jesus is saying here, we don't even necessarily have to worry about what we're going to say, because God will provide the words in that very moment. And then he also warns us that the truth will eventually cause us to have to put dividing lines between even our family and friends. And ye shall be hated for all men for my name's sake. And we can see that now. I'm on these chats, and people are just saying, Jesus is gay, and like all these kind of like random, we have an LGBT Bible and all this kind of stuff. Like, people hate God, and like they don't even think that he exists. So it's like, to me, this is starting to get kind of stupid. It is stupid, but we have to play along with this for a while, hopefully not too much longer, but it's starting to get dumb, because like people are hating somebody that they first off maybe don't even believe exists, or they believe exists, but he's done nothing to them personally. And he's done nothing to them worse than what the government's doing to everybody worldwide, but they'll defend them staunchly. So the whole thing is stupid. So, we all see this. It's kind of ridiculous, and God is behind it. So, again, it has to be brilliant and for a righteous purpose. But, just know that it's prophesied. People will hate us, not even necessarily if we're like some, real hardcore John the Baptist types, but, they're just going to hate us for even just asking questions, like questioning the government. Why is there money printing? Who's the money going to? Where do our taxes go? Why do these images look fake? How on earth can they drive a golf cart on the moon? 50 years ago and stuff like that. We're just asking simple questions, and then people hate us, call us paranoid, we're stupid, and all that kind of stuff. So it's happening, and unfortunately or fortunately, however you look at it, it's not going to get better. And Jesus prophesied this, so it's the will of God. And so just like he took on suffering, even if he didn't maybe want to, we have to take upon that as well. And I'm speaking to myself, because I'm not very good at it. As you can probably tell, if you see me in some of these hangouts, I get impatient and annoyed that we don't know the shape of the earth with any clarity on both sides. But this is the will of God. This confusion, this anger, this angst towards us, people who are just asking questions, questioning our government, double checking their numbers, because a lot of their numbers they give us is complete gibberish. They claim our unemployment rate is at 3.6%. Conveniently 3.6, 36, 36, 666. So, there's always information in these numbers, but they claim that our economy is the best that it's ever been, when there's stores closing everywhere. People can't find jobs. I was just golfing with a guy earlier, and he was asking me if I know of anybody who's hiring. And this is a Rice grad who's like, has, just graduated looking for a job and stuff. So it's like, people are not finding work, young people, older people, not to be rude, but people who should be retiring still need to work, and people are working multiple jobs just to even have a chance to stay, above water. And it's kind of becoming more and more mainstream. Not to kind of sidetrack, but I just want to highlight this, that now, again, more of us are becoming aware that there's a major scam going on, and all the numbers we're given are false. People, the jobs numbers will come out, and then people down below in the comments I read, and then they're like, oh yeah, so like 20,000 new Uber drivers just got formed, or there's 20,000 new Uber jobs now and stuff. So people know that that the jobs that are being created are not what they're purported to be. And so, there are lies coming from all angles, and certainly from the government. The creator, you need better mods. Where I mod, we ban people like me. I like the mods that I got. They're good people. So just be patient. Okay. And you shall be hated for all of all men for my namesake, but there shall not an hair on your head perish. So this is an incredible promise, that again is mentioned in other places in the Bible, that God knows us intimately. He would have to. He made us. It was his idea. We did not architect ourselves, our height, what we would look like, whether we would wear glasses or not, what talents we would have, what weaknesses we would have. God architected this. This is his movie. And so Jesus reaffirms this here, that, we are going to go through these things. They will want us dead, and they may even cause us to be put to death. But he reminds us that, but there shall not an hair of your head perish, in verse 18. So just that's a good one to come back to for myself as well. In your patience possess ye your souls. And so to me, a lot of this stuff, and again, I'm not very good at it, but God wants us to have the same control that he has with his body, his patience, his physiology. He had to be patient with people because he was brilliant and he was surrounded by simpletons. And, Jesus, by definition, would have had to have been patient because he would have driven himself insane having to listen to people ask him stupid questions, over and over again. And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation therefore is nigh. And I think that's another layered prophecy. Like I said earlier, there is war going on right now in Israel this weekend. And so these kind of things apply to, historical events, but fit very, very well to this day. Literally this day, today, and yesterday, and the last couple of days. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of the vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. Again, very, very layered. I think we're going to start having travel bans. All these things are going to start happening. You can see that now with things going on in the airlines and all that. They're just creating all this false commotion. And then eventually, this is a precursor to martial law, where not only are you not allowed to travel from city to city, you're very restricted in terms of where you can go within your own city, potentially within your own neighborhood. And so, again, all these things, especially things of prophecy, are layered. There's no new thing under the sun. The same conflict that was happening in ancient times is the same thing that's happening play out now. It's just with greater and greater technology. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. For there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon this people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And to me, that time of the Gentiles is now. Another way to say that is when atheism abounds and rules the earth, which it is right now. In its fullness, homosexuality has encompassed the earth, devoured it. We are led by people who are either homosexual, pedophiles, or very, very sympathetic to that lifestyle. And, to me, again, even non-religious people are becoming very, very obvious. Even to non-religious people, it's becoming very, very obvious. The world is run by evil people. And there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and in the stars and upon the earth, distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. And so again, we see here that the sun and the moon and the stars are God's creation, and he uses them for signs. And to me, same thing for us, like flat earth, us now knowing the sun is not 93 million miles away. The moon is a light and all these kind of things. That's a sign, for us, people who feel that they are God's children. God uses these things as signs. He's letting us know that, the end is near. The earth is indeed flat, the way he described it in Genesis and Isaiah and in Joshua, and all the verses that support, flat stationary earth. And he uses the sun, the moon, and the stars for signs. And one major sign that has happened recently is the revealing of the flat earth. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. This is referring to his second coming. The Bible talks about clouds. Coming in a cloud is a UFO. So for those people out there who, again, this is the spirit that's talking to me. I have a feeling ETT will support me on this, the spirit that's interacting with him. These are the clouds, the chariots described in other places, are UFOs. God and his angels, all those lights that you see in the sky, things people are recording, that no one can understand what they are. Even the government doesn't know necessarily what they are, although they do know that God exists. But those are UFOs, and I believe that is the mechanism with which the second coming and the rapture will occur, as described here. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. He'll be coming in the sky. That's very, very clear in this verse. Whether you believe in the UFOs or not, that's something that to me is a nuance. That's what I believe, and but he will be coming in the sky, as it says here, with power. So he will have wrath on his mind, and in great glory. So there'll be a spiritual, who will be coming as a spirit, not as a man. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So this is the hope. This to me is the only thing that would make sense for why God would put many people through this much deception and this much evil and this much perversion all at the same time. And we're all now aware of it. And so to me, again, if this happens and I see it and I'm not a part of it, I have no issues with that, but I'm getting the heck out of here immediately. You can assume that I'm gone at most 2 or 3 hours later. It's, if I'm not on the list, that was not meant to be, and I have no issues with that, but I'm not hanging around here. If God's elect and God's children are taken away, can you imagine what's left? The amount of degenerates that are out there, they'll be unchecked with any kind of truth. I'm out. I'm way out. So to me, whenever the rapture occurs, that is my rapture if I'm on the earth at that time, plus or minus 3 hours. So that's and I would recommend other people strongly consider that as well, because the individuals, the spirits that would be left, minus the ones that refuse the mark of the beast, are complete degenerates. I'll get to the questions at the end, Rob, but I'm almost done. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And he spake to them a parable. Behold, the fig tree and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. So likewise ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of heaven is nigh at hand. To me, it would be very, very strange if all of this deception was just kind of random. Flat Earth popped up on the scene a decade ago, and it's consistent with the Bible. All the financial deception going on, 3 square markets, and all the mark of the beast stuff coming in, seeping into the mainstream news, and kind of just water cooler conversation. The amount of homosexuality that has permeated the earth, just the unemployment, many, many people. What's going on in Venezuela, the political chaos, the rioting, the uproars of the people, the earthquake frequency increasing. The weather is taking on a new personality in these days. And if you know about Hurricane Harvey here in Houston in the last little while, the amount of water we got is biblical. Every news thing that I saw on that while it was happening and after, it just referenced the Bible. That is of a biblical level of water. People were driving their boats on top of their cars. And because the people would see like skid marks on their car after the water subsided. And then they realized later, we were actually, putting our boat over our water. We were putting our boat over our car because there was that much water. So that kind of stuff is God. It's people may not like to believe that, but only God can do something like that, and author something, that amount of devastation, across a region. That is God doing that. And so all these things to me point to the fact that we're at the end, where the earth has become unlivable for the righteous and the unrighteous. I'll just read this again. So likewise, ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of heaven is nigh at hand. And the Bible says in other places that the kingdom of heaven is among us. It's a group of people. It's spirits. It's a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual, in my opinion, rejoining with our Creator and learning more. And He has a place prepared for those that love Him, and He will have something productive to do. We will not be degenerates. We will not be required to be gay or effeminate. We will not be atheists anymore, because we will be in the presence of God, and we will not be stupid. He will not allow stupidity around Him. This is only for a certain time, in my opinion, to humble us and to all that kind of stuff. Remove the chip on our shoulder and break us. In many ways. And that doesn't sound very good, but for anybody, certainly not for me. But that we can only be in the presence of God if we are perfect and if we are humble, and that's just the way it is with the God of this Bible. And so again, may He not fill our cup an overwhelming amount. And it's always a virtuous thing to pray for other people, that they not be overwhelmed either. So that's all we can ask for, hope for. So going on, verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. That's a difficult verse to understand. If you're able to accept reincarnation, it's not for everybody, but again, the spirit that's dealing with me, that's to me common sense. Again, I may be wrong, and to me it's not a pillar of my theology, but that's what Jesus means, that this generation shall not pass till all be fulfilled. Means that the spirits that He was speaking to at this time will be reinfused into people at the end, and they will experience what He says in the verses prior, where He says that He'll be coming in the cloud with great power and glory. So they will see His second coming. And take heed to yourselves, lest any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. So here He's actually warning us. This to me is a difficult thing for me to understand, and to me sounds almost contradictory with the God of the Bible, where He's telling us to not be overcome by the cares of this life. And so the reality is that we all have responsibilities. We all have things we need to care about, or else we would be labeled irresponsible. We don't show up at our job if we don't feel good. We don't take care of the people around us. We're not allowed to just not care about anything. But then there's other verses that say, like it says here, to not be overcome, by these cares of this life. And so it's to me very, very paradoxical. It's a very difficult balance that we have to be sort of, quote, in the world, but not of the world. And again, I'm not saying that that's easy. And I don't think very many people have a good balance and understanding of what that even means. So if you don't think you've got it figured out, don't worry, because I don't think anybody does. And only Jesus knows how to do that well, because He was able to engage people fully and sincerely, but always direct them to the spirit world. And He was not politicking His way into staying on earth longer. That's just not what He did ever. And so He figured it out. Obviously, He's God, He's perfect. But, we have this tension constantly where we're required to be here. We have to care about certain things just to survive. But Jesus says here, we're not allowed to be overcharged with these things. For as a snare shall it come on all of them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Again, Jesus, one of the many, many evidences that the earth is flat, He describes the earth as a face, as having a face, a flat surface. Watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. To me, that is evidence of the rapture. So to me, Jesus here again encodes information. Earlier, He's talking about coming in verse 27 on a cloud with power and great glory. He's talking about His second coming. And then in verse 36, He's talking, and again, interesting that it's the verse 36, 36, 666, and He's talking about escaping all the destruction in Verse 36, watch ye therefore and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass to stand before the Son of Man. So there are a group of people, God's elect, who, in my opinion, will be taken away before the calamity comes. And they won't experience this. And it's written elsewhere in Revelation where, it says that God says, come out of her, my people, that ye not be partakers of her sins, and you won't receive of her plagues, which are described later as death, mourning, and famine. So I believe there is a group of lucky individuals out there, whoever they may be, we don't know who they are. They will be taken out, before this destruction happens. And, that's a gift. And it says here that those people will stand before the Son of Man. And in the last days. And in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, and at night he went out and abode in the mount that is called the Mount of Olives. And all the people came early in the morning to him in the temple for to hear him. So, he's a peculiar entity. There are people at that time that were drawn to him, attracted to his words. They would get up early in the morning and want to hear what he's saying, and it's no different now. There are people, in my opinion, growing in number that are seeking God, seeking answers. Why is all this happening in the world? What's going on here? And flat Earth is just one of the things that me and others are running to for answers. And I think that fervor will only increase as the chaos continues, as the unemployment rises, as the bills don't get paid, as the wars increase, and as atheism ramps up. It's these ballers are not going to take their foot off the gas. They're not allowed to. They're not prophesied to. Maybe we win some of them over, our brothers and sisters, but atheism is going full steam ahead. Whether we like it or not, that's just the way it is. If the Bible's true, it will persevere, and those that are prophesied to take the mark of the beast will do it, and will support it by taking it. And so that's to me the road that we're all walking down, whether we like it or not. And all we can pray for is that we're not overwhelmed, and that road is not too long. And that's all we can do in these days. So that's all I got for Luke 21. I think that's a good chapter to go through in the days that we live in now. There's a lot of things going on right now in the economy. Trump is about to increase these tariffs, which if anybody kind of gets a feel, or probably at this point it's obvious, like all this stuff related to like planes crashing and all this turmoil with planes and flights and stuff is just a way that God uses the media to account for the fact that people are not flying as often because they don't have as much money. And so same thing with these tariffs. That's just chatter in the news to account for the fact that people are not buying as much stuff. And so somebody has to take the fall for this system, and there needs to be a narrative for it. And so Trump is the guy. When I found out he got voted in, no one I knew likes Trump. I still haven't met anybody who genuinely likes Trump. Not many people, certainly. And everybody apparently hates him, but he got voted in. All the celebrities, talk out against him and all that kind of stuff. But somehow he weaseled his way into office. Obviously, we know God did this. So he's the fall guy. And so he's going to increase all these tariffs. Things are going to start, in my opinion, unraveling because they can't support an economy by infusing money and giving it to only certain people and expect it to continue and go on and prosper. It can't go on forever. And none of these jobs are necessary. A lot of these corporations are completely unnecessary, like Instagram, like Twitter, and all these different things. They're not real businesses because they're not needed. If they just disappeared overnight, no one would care. They don't have any purpose except to be a part of a system just to like get people to buy things. And so it's that's the entire economy is just based on people having money and going out and buying things. And that's one thing. But once you have less and less people who have money to spend, that economy cannot survive. So it's designed to fail. This $20 trillion debt is just all the money that has been needed to create this beast system and this wealth gap and all these useless companies and all this tech spending. And it can't go on forever, because and even I just saw an article recently where Amazon is starting to like automate its unloading of its trucks and stuff. So even like people are getting replaced with robots. There's some restaurants or some fast food places that don't even have cashiers anymore. You can just go up and place your order, and then on a kiosk, and then that's it. You just wait for it to come out. So there's only so many people who can drive Uber and Lyft, and then it's not any kind of thing you could make a living off of, especially if you have a family. That's a story I wanted to tell, actually, as I end off, that I was in a Lyft a few days ago, and I was talking. I almost always talk about flat Earth if I can, and the pickup line is usually, "Are you a conspiracy theorist?" And so I was speaking to this one guy from Venezuela, really, really nice guy. And I was like, man, what's going on, over there? Like, tell me whatever you feel comfortable sharing about Venezuela. And he's like, it's just chaos. He's like, he's a lawyer. I'm not trying to be rude, but like, he's a lawyer. And he even said this himself, like, he's obviously not using his full potential, but he's here because, he needs to have a place for his kids to be safe. And he's driving Lyft, and he's a lawyer, trained, that's not an easy thing to acquire. I don't care where you are. And I mentioned to him about flat Earth, and he said he agrees. I was like, I'm not even telling you, I didn't have to sell it. He knew about the laser tests, and he's been following it. He's been trying to get people in his family to look into it. And, I was like, encouraged. I was like, damn, normally I'm the one who has to like kind of push it and sell it and get people to like look into it. I have some cards, that I give to people with, my website and stuff on it, my YouTube channel. But yeah, he's like, from a legal perspective, the case that's being made for flat Earth is very, very good. I walked away encouraged, that the word is getting out. Again, if the God of the Bible is true, he's behind the deception and the awakening to flat Earth and other things. And to me, this was a beautiful thing, and I hope that he continues to explore that truth and others. But it's sad, what's going on in Venezuela. It's just a rich country that has been absolutely exploited and leveraged, and all of its resources have just been sucked, literally, out from under it, and they're in squalor. They're searching through garbage cans and stuff to eat. And no human should live like that, and I would not recommend anyone do that. If it ever comes to that, just it's the end. Just don't go searching through garbage can for food. We're not even eating food right now, much less food that's in a garbage bin. The story's over. That's a wrap. Return your spirit back to God, and just let him make it into something more. Sorry, guys, I'm way behind in the chat, but I saw Mies Kang message me. If you're Mies, if you're up for coming on, man, that would be great. I can send you the link. I can't see your post anymore. Looks like we have there's way more messages than normal. I don't know if somebody is just here who's really bored or something, but I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, Mies Kang and others, I mean, you're always free to come on. Yeah, Rob, the shadows and stuff thing, I mean, it's just, I don't even know how you define it as a shadow, just those colored areas. Again, if the Earth is flat, God is behind it. He's given you ballers a few little things to hang on to for dear life, in my opinion. But, it's just God's behind the deception. He put those little arcs on the moon as well, so you guys can go and pretend like that the Earth is a ball. How would the UFOs make it through the dome? They'll manage. They're doing maneuvers that no one can understand. Rob, there's a dome above us, man. It doesn't go on forever. That blue sky is the limit. You should look again, like I said earlier, at Jeremiah 31:37. A lot of you Christian ballers are to me the absolute scum of the world. If you continue on in that, and none of you read your Bible, everything that I bring out, you'll just hand wave and dismiss and all that. I don't see you guys talking about the mark of the beast ever. We're run by a beast system. I don't. How come you're in so many flat Earth, ball Earth chat hangouts, and getting on our case about things? Why aren't you talking about the beast system? Why aren't you talking about what the God of the Bible says about homosexuality and how it's pervasive and legalized in many places? And we're run by homosexuals and pedophiles, perverts, and that's what's going on, and it's stained us. And a lot of us are waking up to the fact that it's happening and it's obvious, and we don't want it anymore. So why are you getting on our case about a shape, a geometry of the earth that the Bible actually supports? You may not have to agree with it, but why don't you align with us on the beast? Why aren't you focusing on that? Why don't you focus on some of the things we do have in common? And we know the reason why is that you guys are not real Christians. God's people are standing up and speaking about the very, very obvious injustices that are going on in the world everywhere from all levels. Even the leadership, the CEOs, they're enslaved because they have to go on conference calls and lie about how good everything is when it's not. And so that's everybody's enslaved. So I don't know what you guys have zero credibility, and then we try and sit and come up with a test with you guys on the shape of the earth, and then all you guys want to do is put a bunch of sticks in the ground and assume that the sun is 93 million miles away when we know that it's not. So you guys got to get your act together. It's becoming very, very obvious. You guys don't know anything about the Bible. You don't know anything about the Bible. I mean, the flat earth thing is just one of the many, many things that you guys deny in the Bible. And so you're dismissed. If you don't acknowledge that we're living in very, very evil times, if you don't acknowledge that there are at least some signs of the end happening, like the RFID chip being the mark of the beast as one major, major development, you guys are lost. And in my opinion, you don't exist. If you're not speaking out against the evils of the world right now, at least to some degree, then you're not a human, in my opinion. You're just a zombie, because there are a lot of people who don't even have a religious disposition, and they're speaking out against the evil from a neutral standpoint. So, oh shoot, Mies Kang, let me know if you still want to join, man. We can figure out a way for you to get in. If you don't have access to email, yeah, just let me know. However you want to do it. Oh, Shavites, Jagnar, it's good to see you again, man. Always good to hear from you, man. Oh, sorry, Mies. I'll send it to you now, buddy. My bad. My bad. I'll send it right now. Sorry, Mies Kang. Expected in less than 30 seconds. I'm just opening up my Gmail. It's kind of chaotic. Like, it's kind of harder to. I wish they had two chat boxes, like one with group of people that are trusted, and then one, that I could look at occasionally. But okay, I just sent that, Mies Kang. That should be coming your way. Okay. No, I got time, man. I'm just, I'm good. I don't have any plans. I think that honestly, watching all these debates and stuff is starting to give me a headache sometimes. So, it's the same old stuff over and over again. I think once people start wanting to do tests and collaborate and do something, tangible, I think they'll start taking on a different tone. But I hope that happens soon. If I were to guess, I think this year might be more of the usual, more people getting in on both sides for whatever motivation. And then eventually, like I said on my most recent video, 10 years max, but obviously I don't think it would ever take that long to solve this debate rigorously and conclusively. But in the absolute extreme situation, that to me is like way, way more than enough time. And I like to set those deadlines in my brain just to know that at least this stuff will not go on forever, because I'll literally lose my mind if people had to get on 2 or 3 hangouts a day and debate compression and refraction and listen to Rumpus and George lie to us, every day. So the Mies Kang, what's up, bro?
What's happening, brother?
Hey, how you going, man? How's the sound and everything?
Chilling. Sounds good.
Good to have you on again, man.
Yeah, buddy, I got nervous. As soon as I sent that message, you were saying that you were gonna finish up before you hopped off. So I was like, oh snap, I don't want to make them stick around just for me.
No, I also want to make one last statement before you share your thoughts. I believe truly now more than ever, and I don't want to get emotional, but I do feel that we are reconnecting with a spiritual family. Again, we don't know everything about the afterlife, if there even is one, and all that kind of stuff. But anybody, especially those who I feel are sincere, they obviously don't have to agree with everything I believe, because I'm still figuring a lot of things out. But right. You and others, if you ever want to chat, I'm always open. I think that people who are seeking truth and calling out injustices and doing what they can to follow Christ's example, to me, it's not common. And I think that hearing from other people like that is a huge encouragement. So welcome.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you. I feel the same way. I first saw you on the non sequitur thing, and I had been watching them for a little bit up to that point, but you carried yourself much differently than the majority of all the other quote unquote flat earthers they had on there. And then once I started looking at your channel, I was like, holy shit, this guy, because you talk about I don't even want to say the words, the fun events that happen in our schools around the country.
Yeah. Those dubious events that may or may not have taken place. Yes.
Right. The ones that make us these terrible children haters for questioning.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy gets it. This is great. And then listening to you talk about the Bible and the whole bit. Yeah. I agree. I feel the same way.
I think God is making it easier for us to be on the side of truth, because he's making the lies so ridiculous. I think you would agree with me on this. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's starting to get absurd, like what's going on. I mean, people are shooting lasers like 20, 30 miles. People are seeing things 50 kilometers away, the very base, the shoreline of some islands 50 kilometers away. And people are telling us that that's a holographic looming representation. And I mean, we have to take this seriously. It's like, I don't even know what to say anymore, man. Like, God.
Then, I wasn't able to watch too much of Jose's debate earlier because I work Sundays too, a different job. So I was in the midst of getting ready.
Okay.
But, listening, because I was there throughout the week, and when those ballers like the Rumpus and what's the other guy's name's George?
Yeah, George. Yeah.
Okay, when these guys get going, it's like listening to two, for lack of a better word, nerds going in on like the intricacies of the plot of a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are okay, you could say all this fancy stuff and you're able to work all these equations in your brain and all that, but it's still all based off assumption and just fantasy. So that their whole premise in these debates is just that they sound good. It sounds like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But
I got a question for you.
Sure.
You're never on the hot seat with me, but I have a feeling your discernment is very, very attuned to this. I know that they're lying, even if I was just coming into the discussion cold, because the things that they're talking about, they're going in circles and not being specific. They're just talking like some sort of pedantic, just using a bunch of terms. But
Right.
when you see like the news, even like these quote unquote shootings, which we're suspicious of, and for me personally, like when I hear commentary on stock market or financial stuff, I know that they're lying. It's like they're just talking in circles. They're not talking about how broke people are, how scared people are. They don't see like secure job security, so they're talking in circles. And it's like, it just sounds like, to me, it's the exact same vibe, but just different people in these flat earth, ball earth discussions. It's the same, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, because they're using the same, like, for lack of better phrase, wizardry, sophistry tactics. Like if one of them ballers is talking, everybody else shuts up and is super quiet, lets him get through his thing. But the minute you or any of the other guys would just try to get a sentence out, they immediately attack every word you say and start redirecting the argument based on the definition of those words before you could even finish a sentence every time. Because they know in their heart of hearts, whether they believe the earth is flat or not, or are paid or whatever, they know that to win the debate, they cannot let you make your point the way you're trying to make your point. And it's the same roundabout, dodge it, don't look behind door number 4 nonsense that you get in the mainstream media.
So, Mies Kang, did we have an example of Riley or somebody showing 50 kilometers of flat water? So every other distance or boat is subject to that observation. So unless they're showing us more than 50 kilometers of like a bottom up obstruction, it's already been proven that 50 kilometers of the earth is flat. So to me, like all those other images and stuff, like we're not going to get anywhere. They're going to keep saying looming. We're going to keep saying, our stuff, which we're still trying to get solidified. Because again, we just, we haven't learned this in school. Right. We've been indoctrinated for our whole life. But, so I think, again, as the tests get more and more sophisticated, again, I think it's God's oversight, because a truth like this would literally overwhelm the entire world if it was like mainstream, because all the governments would then immediately be persecuted. Yes. Because even if you weren't religious, you'd just be like, well, where the hell did all my money go? It's like, even if you didn't care about, God or religion, you'd be like, well, all that money that was towards the stuff that you claim is true, where did that go? And that's a valid question. So
here's my opinion on this, and I will do my best to verbalize it. Like, for me, there's 2 or 3 options. Like one that I lean most toward now, which is a little doom and gloom, is that flat Earth will never be able to be received mainstream. Even if, like, say they did your test and proved conclusively, it would still be left for each individual to accept it or not. They would never push that.
Agreed.
So there's that option. And then for me, there is they say flat Earth is a psyop. I do not believe, obviously we believe the Earth is flat. But if there's a psyop angle to it, it would be allowing it to come out in like a last ditch effort to bring the system down, say whatever else they tried to do, nukes or biological attack, couldn't work. Letting this come out would most certainly get that job done. So that's where it's at for me. I don't see this being allowed to come out in the way like the majority of the flat Earth movement is expecting it or hoping it will. I don't see that happening, and the Bible still being able to be fulfilled the way we understand it.
You know how crazy like that? You know how many freaking like psyops amongst psyops there would have to be, lies embedded in lies, that the Bible was neutral or flat Earth positive, which everybody with common sense would acknowledge, but it was wrong. Like the Bible said, don't lie, but it like laced itself with lies. Like I would just be so confused. I would need like a nap for like a week.
It's
just
a like, Mandela effect, bro. They're changing it.
Yeah.
No.
Mies Kang, sorry, bro. You can chat. I'm just gonna invite Seek and Find if you don't mind.
Not a problem.
Okay.
I didn't have too much anyways. I just wanted to jump in and support. I followed along the text and took notes. I'm not even going to lie about it.
No, that's cool, man. I think it's even the story that you brought out last week, and then this gentleman I met driving Lyft. It was an encouragement for me, man, because like all the stuff that is going on, all the debates, and again, I'm not saying I'm laboring, but just all the stuff people are doing, like Oakley's channel, and like all the, to me, good content that's out there. Thrive and Survive. You can disagree with them in their nitpicking thing, but they're putting energy forward. It's getting to people, it's reaching people. And I think, to me, that's just cool. Like people are actually like, I was like, I know you're talking about laser tests, this and that. I was like, that's dope.
Even even if you're not a part of those debates, or it's not a debate you're watching, it's just a video. It's just taxing is to know that this is going on. Yeah.
Agreed. Shoot, sorry, I'm just looking for Seek and Find's email. Sorry, Seek and Find, can you send me an email back to the email that I sent you, if you don't mind? If you're on your email faster than I am.
Yeah, I'm doing the whole thing on the phone, so I had to like back out of YouTube and stop listening. Okay. In order, it was a confusing thing.
Yeah, I think Hangouts is good, but like there's a lot of things that can be improved, in my opinion, with this.
Yeah, I don't know how to do. I just was able to accidentally join that one day on Jose's, and I was like, all right, I've memorized this exact process, and now I can do it. But like, if I had to start my own or something like that, no way, I couldn't do it. And I guess if you're on a PC, like a Hangout chat off to the side, separate from the YouTube chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see none of that.
All this like porn bombing and stuff too. I'm like, isn't there a way for them to just make it simple so like people, I don't know, can be like regulated a little bit more and stuff? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know, but like, then again, it's hard to understand the type of person who would want to porn bomb.
Yeah, agreed. True.
You got to go. That's a lot of effort just to tear somebody's stream down that you don't like.
Yeah. That's someone was asking me in the chat, and it got me kind of thinking, like, what are your thoughts that, like, they're asking me, like, what are your thoughts that there's like an LGBT Bible, and like Tim Osmond's talking about like Jesus being like a homosexual because he didn't get enough women, in his day, and all this kind of stuff. And not even necessarily saying this to throw them on their bus, but I'm like it just, to me, like scratches my head. Like, we're just being encompassed by stupidity everywhere. Yeah. It's just, who says stuff like that? Like, what's the
witches and wizards, Satanists? That's who says shit like that. And then like people that are so full of hate and rage and confusion repeat it because it makes them feel good to do so. But I obviously don't buy any of that. No way. Bible's pretty clear on that one.
Yeah. Mies King, not to put you on the spot, but you mentioned to me in some prior, and you don't have to share it now, but maybe sometime in the future, about certain spiritual things that have, you've encountered, the supernatural.
Yeah, buddy.
If you're ever open to sharing that again, you don't have to do it now or even in a private hangout.
That's fine. I'll tell you all about it.
What's up, guys? What's going on?
Hey, Seek and Find. What's up, buddy?
Y'all can hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for sure, man. Welcome, bro.
That's what's up. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
What are your thoughts, dude? I like what you're doing with your channel, man. It's I'm subbed and eagerly awaiting all that stuff. So what's on your mind?
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Really, about the whole situation, the way I feel about it is I think that the Globe believers, their tactic right now is to try to make it seem like a trend and not the truth to me, flat earth. So that's just kind of how I feel about it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think the more they get triggered, the more I know it's true, because it's not logical. I'm becoming more and more affirmed by flat earth, largely because I know we're not spinning. That's the most key thing for me lately, I would say, in the last 6 months, that I'm like, how the hell did I ever think that we were spinning? I'm just being honest. When I talk to myself, especially when I'm driving, looking at buildings and stuff, I'm like, how did I ever fall for that? Second thing that's, to me, the most powerful is, how can an invisible force keep such a heavy structure on like suspended. You can say angular momentum, perpetual motion machine, which to me makes it sound even less intelligent and dumber. The only way that this thing is this heavy can be suspended in space is if God exists. You don't have to believe the God of the Bible, fair enough, but there's no way that this is just a spinning.
I think it's absolutely insane. Anybody walking around thinking that, even the way they explain it, like you say, with the perpetual motion, like it's never going to stop spinning. It's, but this just came out of nowhere. It's just insane.
They don't like when we repeat it. Freaking fly. They don't like when we repeat it because they know it sounds absurd. Like they know it's ridiculous. When we just recite to them what they believe, they don't even want to talk about it. I'm like, be proud of it. Love that perpetual machine or whatever the heck you guys think. Like, it's madness, man. And so their behavior, their defensiveness, their desire for a soap opera, again, I've entertained it and I think it's good to pass time, and we might be able to win over a few people here and there. But for the most part, I hope that it becomes more technical. And, the images and stuff to me at best are inconclusive and support flat Earth. So.
Yeah, and I think the best thing for us to do is probably stay off of some of these channels because, like you said, they just, I really believe, they're not about truth. They're just there to push their agenda and really try to make us look as dumb as possible, and kind of gaslight the whole conversation. And I just sit back and been watching these past couple of days, and that's exactly what's going on. And I just, I'm trying to remove myself from it because it's just not getting, anywhere to me. You're one that's actually trying to get it, step by step and push it forward. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of the times it's just a bunch of, nothing going on, same old arguments that we've been talking about for years now, so.
I just find it funny that they're like, they claim that they can make straight lines. That's what the whole hangout was earlier today with Jesse and others, straight line, theodolites, auto levels, this and that. But then when we talk about flying a drone in a straight line, they're like, no, we can't do that. No, we can only use an auto level. They're talking about all these like construction marvels, like look at all the stuff we've done. We've surveyed this and look at all these things, flat this, flat that, straight this, straight that. Then we talk about making a straight line that a drone doesn't even have to fly along, but just goes to those points at the edges, even 2 points. And they're like, no, we can't do that. It's like, what do you mean? Like, everything that ends up becoming a fair, unbiased test, it's hands off. Anything that involves optics, a theodolite or sticks in the ground or the stars moving, and we can't measure those accurately anyway, and all that. That's all they got. So
right.
Like it's crazy. So,
and I think you on film backing them into those corners may be the best we'll ever get out of them. But that people coming on their own and seeing that happen, that will speak to them in and of itself.
Mies King, not to pick on the person in the chat, Gently's channel is like flying a drone perfect level, ? How? These guys think that a golf cart was driven on the moon like 50 years ago. And they don't think that a drone, which is making pharmaceutical deliveries, Amazon is, flying drones, and people are delivering coffee with drones in Australia. They can fly drones in any path. And not only that, it can dynamically create a path that will not harm people. So these people are absolutely out of their mind, and it's just gatekeeping for the government, and it's becoming obvious. I wish some of them would just, I don't know. I wish I was like, I should help them with their PR, because like they're making it easy for us to be flat earthers because they're just spouting gibberish. Like,
yeah, I don't know if they like legitimately believe that, or like you said, consciously know that they can't let the discussion go there and are lying about it, or if it's like a subconscious cognitive dissonance to the extreme where they don't know why they can't let the conversation go there, but feel it nonetheless.
No, I think some of them know, and some of them are really good at, because this conversation has been going on for so long now, that they're really good at, especially like Tim. Take somebody like Tim, who just comes in and shotguns his little,
he does.
4 or 5 points and then runs. It's like, it's crazy.
He just says, this is the mountains behind the curve, and these are my observations from the Salt Lake things, and this just prove it. Wrong, rips, dude. And that's it. That's all you get.
And Seek and Find, on your point, now we got Rob in the chat saying you can fly a drone level, but the trick is to plot that quote level grid because reality says quote level is so it's like they don't even want to. You can't even use a word, like you can't use straight because then they'll say no, you mean level, and then that's level perpendicular to gravity. And I'm like, they're not even allowed to say the word straight because they don't even know what that means. But straight is understood in mathematics. Like you can draw a straight line in any coordinate system. I don't care what it is, spherical, GPS, Cartesian, whatever. So it just becomes a word salad and then just a definition game and nothing technical. This problem of flying a device, whether it be a helicopter or a plane, or in this case, a drone, in a predictable path doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly straight, but it has to be a predictable path that we understand what it is to then discern what the shape of the water is beneath the curvature is trivial. It's that's the problem. It's like now making straight lines, you can only make a straight line if Jesse Kozlowski's around to watch you. Or George.
Right. And there's a lot of flat earthers doing a lot of tests. I guess they all just get, discredited. It's like every single one of us don't know how to do anything, pretty much.
Yeah, John D doesn't know how to shoot a laser across water. Like that's too hard. It's like not really. You shoot a laser across water, and okay, if it's seen, there's obviously potentially some issues of it bending, but not looming, hyper looming. Like Rumpus, Rumpus probably has a loomer in his house that's like keeps his house warm, because it's just overheating with all these images.
Let's see if you're really about truth, and once you, start really thinking about this thing and, just understanding what level is, and how they have to try to misconstrue what the term level means. It's insane, man. So that's really what I ask, when I come into these chats now, it's just for them to define level. And they, of course, say the perpendicular to gravity, which of course is a curve. Like it has to curve on the surface if you're going to say that. And we all know, like if I want to level my shelf or even the glass thing, like I just put on like you heard of float glass, how they make the float glass is like on the in a bath of molten iron or whatever. Or molten,
I saw that. I saw that. Yes,
like,
that was a good video. Yeah.
So they use level liquids to make flat glass. So if you could think, it's like you could just ask them, is glass flat? You know? And if they deny that, then it's like it's no need to have conversations with these people to me.
And let me read this again because I just keep harping back on this. And to me, what was not said is the most important. And so this is my buddy who I went to undergrad with, and this is the guy I keep referencing when I talk about my friend who's in the military and is a pilot. But to me, what he doesn't say is the most compelling. And let me just read the back and forth. I'll read it exactly word for word. So I'm sending him, I just say his first name, ! How are you, man? Quick question for you. He's like, I am good. Hope all is well. Curious if you account for the Earth's curvature in your instruction flying. No, not at all. Point to point distance as a line drawn on a map. I'm like, okay, thank you. That is what I thought. We are not traveling over the surface of the Earth, traveling at altitude above surface. In my opinion, not a factor. So you probably already know that the Earth is actually flat. So I'm kind of being a bit tongue in cheek. And I'm like, you should watch this documentary to confirm. He just sends back a thumbs up. And then I send him 4 commercial airline pilots confirm the Earth is flat. I'm like, it's flat, buddy. It's obvious. He's like, still not convinced. Can you imagine? Like, I'm not trying to be rude. Like, this is a smart guy. He has a computer engineering degree from the same school I went, and he was a good student. And I know him for, now over, we started in year 2000. So I've known him for almost 20 years. And he's a flying and an instructor. He said, still not convinced. Can you imagine? I just sent him like 5 messages back and forth.
Yeah, well, I can understand from somebody who this is maybe new to. Like, I don't know if this is the first time he's hearing of it or something like that, or really thinking about it.
Imagine whatever your expertise is, or let's say like my expertise, like somebody coming to me, giving me like a CPA question and be like, hey, look at this. And I'm telling him like, I'm not convinced. It's like something that I'm in every single day. He should come back to me or say, Shrek, like, let's talk. Like, I'm going to tell you, this is what we do. This is the coordinate system. This is the what I see. This is how we account for curvature, spin, all this kind of stuff. Like, he should be rhyming off hundreds, like, and this is, again, I know him, like, he's not just a stranger. And so he would, and again, that's not anecdotal because I have emails, but then I have another friend who's an amateur pilot, and I approached him about this, and this, just take my word for at least this story, but I can reveal more details or even get this person potentially on a call. But he actually works for a company that does flight simulator, so he may not be able to speak too publicly, but he's never thought about the shape of the Earth once. And then when I did mention it, and then over the last, year or two, he's becoming more and more spiritual. Like he's like, yeah, like he sent me a link to a debate that he was going to where he lives about flat Earth, and they've never thought about it. Why? Because it's flat and it's not moving. That's just what it is. So they've never had to think about the shape of the Earth, the curvature, or the spin, and they would know potentially the most out of anybody is our pilot. So
that's fair. I never thought about it. I admit that before I came across this, I never even thought twice about it.
And see that's just how good they are at doing their job. Go ahead, Monica.
No, but even all of us, like imagine, and I'm not trying to be rude to them because I know them personally, but because I went to undergrad with both of them. But imagine all of us, like even people in a plane. So I think what you guys are getting at to me is a very, very humble and correct stance. It's like, it is easy to not ask, and I think this is the spiritual aspect of it. Because if we did find out at a young age, I think we would be overwhelmed and go crazy. And so, even them, they're in, a plane every day, and teaching other people how to fly, and they've never thought about it. To me, again, shows how easy it is potentially to have this kind of a deception happen to even people who should know it intimately.
Right.
So, yeah. Yep. It's crazy, man. I think it's becoming very, very obvious that we live on a flat plane, and some entity out there, as brilliant as he is, created, Seek and Find, Miskang, Mind of God, and everybody. And that's overwhelming for even spiritual people to think about. I don't know. I laugh sometimes, but it's an uncomfortable one. That's amazing.
I'll agree with that. It is not a pleasant existence all the time. It's a gift and a curse is the best way to put it for me.
But Mies, how creative must this entity be to come up with all this and then just make us think that it's normal for us to be here? Like, have you guys thought about that? How does someone do that? Like, we just walk around like everything's kind of all good, but there's something out there that actually made this.
That's something I don't even think our minds are capable of perceiving. Like, just like I get stuck at he always was and always has been, like, oh, you infinity forever. Like, what are you talking? You didn't start somewhere. That alone I can't touch and just makes my head hurt. Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm not trying to, come across deep or whatever. I just, now that flat Earth is sinking in more and more, whenever I look around, it's just I catch myself. I have to like blink, and be like, how does someone think of this? Like whether you believe the God of the Bible or not, just the fact that an entity can think of all these different things.
Sorry, for me that's what it is. It's as I'm getting older, it's just being in nature, observing nature, and that in itself, I'm in awe sometimes if I just sit there and observe. And I'm blessed to be in a place where it's beautiful here, man. I live in Florida,
Nice.
Right on the Gulf, and I mean it's just I take it in as much as I can now. So,
but you're the crazy one for believing that this all didn't come from nothing. You wacko.
Right. I'm fine with that. Now I've gone through all the scrutiny, and I'm actually pretty blessed to have, like, my father's a flat, he believes it's flat.
Yeah.
My brother does, a lot of people around me do. And a lot of it is accredited to me, opening my mouth and speaking about it. But it was kind of crazy how it happened, because it's like, like I said, my dad is and my brother is, but if I never brought it up, we would have never known that each one was thinking the same thing. And it was kind of crazy when it happened and I brought it up, and to hear that they were thinking the same thing, it was big, man. It was big for me. So, yeah.
That's cool.
That's great. That's great.
It took me go ahead, sorry.
No, sorry, Miss Ken, go for it, bro.
I was going to say it took me a long time just to get my dad to consider 9/11. He's on board with that now, and he's cool with like JFK and chemtrails, but like was in love with NASA growing up because he was a kid while that was on TV. So it's real hard for me to just talk about the moon landing, let alone flat Earth. But he doesn't get angry anymore, which is says a lot more than what you can about the ballers in them debates getting triggered.
Not to throw my dad under the bus, but like I mentioned it to him, he's like, okay, well, just take the positives. And I just thought that was kind of funny. Like it's something like this, like literally getting clubbed over the head, intellectually sodomized, in my opinion, my whole life, especially someone like me who has virtually sold his soul to like, pursuing degrees and all this nonsense that I know that it is now. It's like to hear that from somebody. Again, it's not his fault. I now more than ever, I'm very, very thankful. And I'm not, every time I post videos about God as the author of good and evil, it's not to like throw God under the bus. It's just to let me personally redirect my qualms up, and not towards people around me. Cause like he just did the best he could, he just came here from India to Canada and wanted us to do well in school and, stay out of trouble and all that. So he's certainly not to blame. And I can't even blame my high school teachers because none of them know what they were doing. Imagine if all of us went back and talked to our high school teachers, we would have questions for them that they would have no idea what we're even talking about, honestly. Like they'll be like, what laser test or gravity or like, they'll be like, get away from me kind of thing. So, there's something bigger going on. If the earth is indeed flat, which I believe strongly that it is, the deception is proof of God more than the structure to some extent. So.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah, to speak on what you were talking about earlier about the creator, like everybody's walk is different. My walk, is different from yours, and I'm sure me, King's here. So like, yeah, me, for me, I grew up in a Christian household, but I've come to question a lot of things, and I thought it would be wrong if I didn't question the Bible too, even though that was something that I, grew up in. So I'm in this stage right now, even though I got a lot of respect for you, man, God, that I do question the God of the Bible. And I just think about it. I can put it to you plainly like this, like what you were just saying. Yeah. Thinking about the creator and the creator of this place, how can you fit him in a little book like that? Like it's too awesome to even conceptualize putting him in. That's man to me doing that. And even though I do think there are truths in the Bible, I think it would be wrong for me not to question it. Even thinking about the hands that it's been in and things like that. So, yeah.
No, I think of anything that we've all learned, even if, let's say, hypothetically, we are wrong about the shape, but obviously I think just knowing us three, we're very comfortable where we stand, literally. But, it's fundamentally asking questions about our reality and not being afraid, and I think just one even layer behind this notion of atheism to me is preposterous. Like I know atheism is ridiculous now because I've been kind of propelled forward with flat earth. I know that the thought of this whole thing being a statistical accident from a purely statistical perspective is absolutely
all these cosmic coincidences just
and I think it's just easier to believe that, especially as a young person. And even now, like I just still find it hard to believe, how does someone do this? And then why? I don't know which question's harder to answer. And then he gives us the ability to think that we're free when we're kind of not free. We're still ultimately under his control. These things are just, how does someone think of that? I look at even something silly like the Kardashians. I'm like, who thinks of this? Like who creates these kind of people? And I'm not trying to throw them under the bus because we all have our ability to be vain and all that. But I'm like, and then you listen to like rap music, then you see like just the perversion that's in the world. And then you see what's going on in corporate America. Then you see these debates and just the way they're kind of carrying out. And, who thinks of all this stuff? It's amazing, man. The human body, just how complex it is and all that. It's an incredible thing. So I think just fundamentally being free to ask questions, fundamental ones. I'm allowed to look up in the sky and say, where does it end? Like that blue thing right there. What is that? If I were to stick my finger in the air and someone would shoot me in the air, would it just go forever or would I hit something? And now more than ever, I know that we would hit something, and I think that verse in Jeremiah is a very, very good one where God puts literal barriers for what people can know. and physical barriers. And he says that there's a time and a place, like Seek and Find was getting at, for all of us. We have our walk, we have things we have to go through, whether we like it or not. And we're all stuck here, but I think as we interact with more and more people like Seek and Find, Mies Kang, and others, seeking truth to whatever fervor that it is, to me is the only thing that keeps me sane personally. So.
Amen to that.
What do you think about this? What do you know, and what do you think about the ionosphere? Something that I wanted to ask you, Mind the Guy, because the way they explain it to me, or the way when I look it up, it's these electrons up there moving freely.
Yeah.
These charged particles up there in this field.
Yeah.
And I don't know how fast these particles are moving up there and stuff. They, talk about solar winds and all of this other stuff, but I just want to know what you think on it. And is that some type of barrier up there or not?
I remember you brought that up because I think you were doing some research and talking about how it appears to become more dense, right? Just the matter that's up there. I remember you made that statement in a past hangout, which kind of
the term that's used is highly concentrated up there. And if they're going to say that it's a gradient, going up, and it's getting thinner and thinner as you go up, and the molecules are spreading farther and farther apart, then what is this highly concentrated area of electrons that is above our head, apparently, And then once you go past, it's like this thing has 3 layers to it, and then once you go past that is the magnetosphere, which is coincidentally right next to the exosphere, which is supposed to be very sparse. I mean, it just doesn't make sense in my mind. So I just want to know what you thought or whatever.
I think and I'll just be fair, because like I am a double E, and like these 2 people that I cited who are my classmates, the pilots, one of them who works in it now in the military, and the other one does it as an amateur. But so we studied, like radiation propagation, like radio waves and stuff. But the one class that I did take, I built a receiver. And so we didn't kind of get too much intimate knowledge about how waves propagate and what they interact with, in 3-dimensional space, and how far they can travel, and what those different layers of atmosphere would do to the signal and all that kind of stuff. And so it may have been taught at a theoretical level at some point. I just don't remember. But all the different layers, one would think, if people who are learning about signals, radio waves, I feel like might be possibly the only way, as far as I know, who would know that stuff. Like people who are like RF engineers or build, antennas and stuff like that. They would be good people. I don't know one personally who works in that, and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like people like that. I know George will come on there and speak about it, but I think he's pretty smart, but I don't trust, a lot of what he says. But if I do come across somebody like that, just through my interactions, like I'll let you know, because I feel like they might be one of the best people to talk to, because they would have to have some idea of what a signal that they're transmitting does in those different layers and how they're impacted by them.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting just to look into and just kind of.
I think it's good, man. Honestly, I told my buddy, like,
the radio waves are bouncing off of something up there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
they are.
And it's coming back down. So
yeah, that's a fact. I told him if I were to go back in school, I would be a much, much different student. I would walk my professor back to his office and ask him hundreds of questions. I'm telling you, like, he wouldn't know why I'm asking, because I'd be like trying to, rig up a test about this. Yeah, I would ask so many more questions, and the guy that taught us electromagnetic theory was a Russian guy, and we didn't understand what he was saying, and he was teaching out of a book that very, very complicated stuff, and he honestly we didn't understand what he was saying, honestly, and he just had to curve all of our exams because all of us were like doing poorly. But like, I would want to learn so much. I would love to learn more about our surroundings. And I think that I would encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and share through your channel in other ways, man. Like, you don't have, these people claim, I was debating my, a friend or an individual downstairs, and he was like, oh no, you're not a physicist, so you're not allowed to like talk about this kind of stuff. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, again, I'm not a genius. But I've studied engineering. I've taken physics classes. Like, I'm allowed to ask questions about gravity and like curvature and like stuff like that. This is not rocket science. So they'll just keep hitting us with that gas, you know, like, oh, you're not this, or show me your credentials, show me your badge. No.
Yeah, you're free. You're free. You're just not free
Yeah.
to do that, though. You're not free to do that, though.
Come on. It's like we're talking about gas pressure. We're talking about water curving. We're talking about lasers. Like,
And these are all
like
valid points that they just act like are just coming out of left field. Like, come on, man. We're talking about level water. It has a horizontal nature on the surface of it. I mean, for the most part,
yeah.
that's
So you can find, I'm telling you, man. Everybody's a walking flat Earth, ball Earth test solver. Everybody in the world. Somebody could just be driving and come up with a test, and it be the most elegant, irrefutable test known to man, and they could be somebody who didn't even finish, elementary school. You never know. Like, it's one of those problems that there's not a huge barrier of entry like there is in a lot of other disciplines, like computer science, because if you can't program a computer, it's harder. You have to learn that. But no, I think that, again, this is why I think this whole debate is more fundamental. We're allowed to ask questions. I'm allowed to ask. We're all allowed to ask. Why are we here? Where are we going? What's the purpose of all this? Why are we slaving away for somebody else to get really, really rich, and they have way more money they could ever possibly enjoy, and all of us are miserable? And why are there homeless people? Why are there 50, 100, 200 homeless people right outside my apartment, one of them sleeping next to feces? Why is this happening when we have so much money in circulation? Why? I think that we're allowed to ask these things. And in my opinion, if God exists, he would wonder why we don't.
All good points, man. It's we're doing silly stuff like launching all these rockets, trying to accomplish, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And it's like,
yeah,
somebody I was talking to not too long ago was talking about healthcare, and I was like, yeah, Canada has free healthcare, and how many rockets do you see them blasting off? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just throw that little jab out there. It's like, we're just doing stuff that I think, would be fine if everything was, like you said, if there were no homeless people and everybody was good, everybody had their share, there's not all this fighting going on, then you can progress and start worrying about going to Mars and all. I mean, okay, we would probably be fine with it, but prioritize. We got we're in debt and all this other stuff, and but we're sitting here trying to go to Mars. It just doesn't make no sense at all.
You can find, dude, I don't know if you felt this, like years ago, something in my spirit. I had a buddy who was like trying to become an astronaut, and we don't talk that much anymore because of these kind of differences. But I asked him, like, why are we spending all this money on space? Like, there's so much poverty here. People are starving. And he's like, oh, well, we've come up with new technology. I'm like, name one. And he named like something ridiculous, like, I don't know, some stupid thing that no one even cares about, like some material that, like, I guess can withstand certain temperatures. I'm like, really? Like, that is what was needed in order to that much spending was needed to come up with like a new kind of Velcro or something. I'm like, really? Something about space from years ago never felt right. And it's just obviously infinitely worse now. But yeah, dude, that's madness. And I think that I find that to be complete hypocrisy when they claim all these things are happening, rockets and golf carts on the moon, but they propose some of the most idiotic, vague, absurd tests. I have a baller on my channel thinking that weighing different things in different parts of the world is conclusive proof that the Earth's a ball and gravity exists. I'm like, really? Like, you want us to go take a scale, fly to different parts of the world, weigh it, and just the fact that it's not the same, like, that's your belief that gravity exists? Like, that's what people are talking about. And like, that's absurd to me.
Just
like
garbage, man. Just plain
garbage. Oh my God. I don't know whether to laugh, cry, get angry, say something mean, or just like, I should just probably have like a meditative prayer, that I say, and just be like, I'm going to let this one slide. But I can't take stuff like that seriously. I get very, very irritated because it's just double talk. It's like, okay, if you're boasting about you have a really, really nice car, like amazing car, drives so fast, it's so much science has made it. But then you're like, yeah, let's walk, let's crawl, It's like, okay, like, do you really have a car that's that good, or are you just talking nonsense? And so to me, that's what's going on. I think the truth, if it is true, and I believe it to be true very much, it's overwhelming. I think God is pacing its release, but I don't think in any way would God require us to be stupid. We have to ask questions.
I'm with you, man. If you give me one moment, I'll be right back. Give me like 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no rush, man. So, here it is, that we're all here, trying to figure out why we're here, where we're going, who made us, and can we learn more? Can we be around an entity that's the opposite of the rumpus? Can we be around somebody who we can ask questions, will not call us an idiot, will tell us the truth, and encourage us to ask more? And I'm not trying to pick on the rumpus. He's playing his role like we all are, but we want an entity that is the 180-degree antipodal representation of somebody like that, where we can ask questions, even if they're simple. And the simpler, the better at the beginning, because the interesting thing I find about extremely intelligent people, which I'm not, but they and my sister mentioned this because she went to University of Toronto, which is like the MIT of Canada. She was like a very, very good student, but the very, very top students would come to her and people like, in the sort of maybe top 25 percentile, and they would kind of ask them stuff because they want a totally fresh perspective. They don't want to just be around all these like brilliant, people and just talking their language that only they understand. They purposely sought out other opinions from different people in the class of different levels, so they could explain things to them. They could break it down to them in a different way, articulate what they believe and have learned. And they genuinely found learning for themselves in that, and that's a pure thing. That's a very, very pure thing that anybody who is great at something would want to do, is seek out other people and explain things to them. And if you can't explain it to them in a very, very granular, systematic and logical way, there could be a flaw in their own understanding. And so that's not what we have on Earth. And again, we have to always make sure we don't contribute to that. And I'm speaking to myself, but that's not what we have here. We do not have that vibration. And it's not even about ball Earth, flat Earth. It's about our education system. It's anti-learning. It's anti-God, and it's anti-intuition and learning and advancing and edifying ourselves and understanding our surroundings. It's ridiculous. Like the kind of things that, I'm glad, Seek and Find, Miskang, and others and all of us are looking into. It's in many ways making up for lost time, because like we've been just intellectually annihilated, for many, many years, when we should just have a class or many classes where we just ask questions. We just go out and do experiments. We go skip a rock along the water and look at the waveforms that it makes. And, that's what Life is Short is doing. He's showing that some of those ripples, guess what? Those are in nature. Guess what? There's a mathematical formula that models some of those, like Bessel functions. They model things in nature. Sine waves happen in nature. Cosine waves happen in nature. All these different mathematical equations, guess what? They happen in nature. That's why people discovered them. They didn't just randomly sit there and start drawing.
Yeah, that's where they're getting it from. They're just studying nature. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, that Aries pattern is something that's in nature, that ripple pattern that a child could see and observe, and then obviously he's not going to come up with a Bessel function probably, unless he's like, a very, very sophisticated advanced mathematics, but, he'll have
Bessel functions, but what is that one? What is it? Fibonacci or whatever. I think that's what Fibonacci sequence or whatever. Yeah, like the crown of your head is like that. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of the signals in our body too, because I took a class on cardiopulmonary dynamics in grad school, and a lot of our signals in our body can be very, very well understood with mathematics, like functions, like well-known functions and stuff like that, and circuits. And so I think that these are all things that, again, God, in my opinion, is behind this, because no one would do such a mass indoctrination, from end to end. But, I think he's more than happy to get us to ask questions. I think we had to go through that for a reason. One of the many would be to be humbled. But yeah, we're not given the freedom to be curious and explore our surroundings, and we're making up for lost time.
Well, I'm not a math wizard, but I was pretty good at math in high school, throughout school or whatever. But I don't claim to know everything, and I think everybody should be a little humble when it comes to that, because with us as humans, we're always trying to figure out different things. None of us know everything. So anyway, I wanted to ask: have you ever heard about I heard somebody say that Coulomb's law is the same equation as gravity. Or they're pretty similar. Have you heard that?
Yeah. Chris Berry brought that up, and it's true. Like the the force between 2 point charges, like it's like F equals some constant times the point charge Q1, Q2 over the distance between them squared, and then wow, looks a lot similar to F equals G M1 M2 over R squared.
Right.
It's kind of, but the reality is like those analogies are where the ballers actually trap themselves, because they use the symmetry to other formulas as proof that gravity is real. However, those other real fields like electrostatic or electrostatic or magnetic, they have properties for when those vectors interact, and there's very, very specific rules for if you hold a point charge here, you put another one here, you put another one here, and there's rules for how they interact. However, gravity, those forces don't interact. And so I use that term orthogonal when I was on non sequitur, and it's been attached to me ever since. But it's accurate. Each of those gravity.
Do you mean like acting through something?
Yeah, all those. That site M1, M2.
Yeah.
So you can find whatever they say. And usually the M2 is the Earth, right? The big M, I guess. But every time they say that, those vectors, that vector that they're creating with that F equals G M1 M2 over R squared, that vector does not interfere with any other vector. We see that in nature, like if gravity is real, which obviously we know that it's not, but that's their stance. But then the problem is they'll have to say that it'll obey superposition, which is what those other fields, the real ones, electrostatic and magnetic, obey. But that's not true. If we don't see that in real life, because I am not obstructed or affected by a neighboring gravitational field. I'm not. Sorry to tell you that. A really, really heavy boulder over my head, I'm not going to feel that vector zapping through my body. And they'll just be like, oh, it's so minimal, it's whatever. I'm like, no, it's a non-physical force. You're just making up a plug number so you guys can have atheism, hopefully for only a little while longer. But it's not real. It's not a real force. However, if I'm a magnet and you put another magnet above me and you have a big ass magnet that I'm standing on, darn right I'm going to feel that magnet above me. I'm going to know. I'm going to know that magnet's there for sure. If it's oriented opposite, it attracts. And if it's the same, it will repel me. So those are real fields. This gravitational field that they're proposing is nonsense. And the funny thing is, I find a lot of the ballers, unless they're the ones deep into it, like Rumpus and all that, they won't even know superposition. I'm not trying to be rude, but Sean G and the average ball earther, they won't even know what superposition is, and they will not know how it applies to the gravitational vector field.
I ain't gonna lie, I don't know what it is. I kind of get. I get what you're saying. Like when you were explaining it before, that like acting through, like if you had an ant on the Earth and there was a boulder over this ant's head, that would the ant feel the force of gravity pulling on the boulder over its head or whatever. I understand what you're saying, but I mean,
real Seek and Find would shoot through the ant, and the ant would not feel it physically, which means the way I describe it is that vector is orthogonal. But the only way that that's possible is that vector needs to somehow not interfere with any other vector. But then how can it? It's in the same position in space. It's the same kind of force. It's a gravitational force. So how else can it be independent? You can be independent in frequency, in time, in position, but you can't in this case because they're in the same place. So the ballers run out of options. Gravity does not have a frequency dependence. It doesn't have a time dependence, and it's not space dependent because the forces are in the same place. So they're running out of options. So sorry, that's my point.
A lot of the arguments I see are like that. They're kind of having their cake and eating it too with a lot of their points. Like even what we were talking about earlier, just with the Big Bang, it's like and perpetually spinning and never gonna stop, and you don't never have to worry about it stopping. But there's no creator. It's like no creator behind that. It just came out of nowhere. It's just like a lot of their points are, having their cake and eating it too. It's crazy, man.
Dude, what I've noticed, and I'm reading a bit of the chat, they're like, I'm being accused of a Poe and a shill and all that. And I find it funny because if I'm being a shill, I'm bringing out stuff against the government. Almost every day I try and bring something out. And I'm not advertising for myself. I'm just letting people know, again, what's obvious about the other side. I'm talking about the mark of the beast. There's really no other deception beyond that. And so whenever the truth comes out, like someone like you and Mies Kang and others who have a very strong fervor for God and believe God to be a very, very real thing, the opposition will be proportionate to that. And you guys know this already. So that's what happens. When you bring out truth at a high level, there's going to be a high level of resistance. And so again, I'm sure you very much know this, but just for the sake of the audience.
Oh yeah, when people have to resort to, I mean, that's pretty much the only tactic they seem to have against you. And when people use those tactics where they just gotta attack you personally, they're not attacking your argument. You that you've won. You should just take that W and keep it moving, man. Don't even worry about them. That's my advice. Don't even worry.
Yeah,
I think you see how many people call you that. That should just let you know something right there that they don't. They know something's up, man.
Yeah,
I got a really stupid question. I get the gist of what the word "po" means because I've heard these people use it so many times. But where does it come from, or like what does it mean? Why do they say that and not troll or poser?
Like, I had to ask one of them. I really didn't know either. I
did ask actually on non sequitur once, and then I don't know if it's Edgar Allan Poe, but it might be just it. Their broad understanding is somebody who knows that their stance is wrong, but they're pushing it anyway, or somebody who's just like a shill. Like, I don't know. To me, Poe and shill are the sort of reciprocal. Okay. Like, we'll call them a shill because like we know their only narrative is what the government is feeding, right? And they would tell us that like we're being like willfully ignorant, kind of thing.
Okay.
So that's a Poe. I rephrase it to piece of excellence. So I have no problem being called a Poe.
All right.
We are all pieces of excellence. So
I could get with that.
That's a freaking non sequitur. When truth gets turned up on there, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna call Poe." That's what they say. I'm gonna call Poe. And then I'm like, "All right, fine. We call you guys as controlled opposition, and we know they're all actors. They're some of them are saying Jesus never existed. I got 2 of them to back up on that on tape. Brenda, one hangout was like, Jesus never existed. Then the next one, I'm like, really? You don't think Jesus ever existed? And then she backed off that. And the irony is another individual named Truth, his literal name is Truth in these hangouts, said that Jesus never existed. I'm like, I'm like, these Christian ballers need to like look to their left, look to their right. And who are you guys standing next to? Like, you're standing next to staunch atheists who claim that the very God you worship on a daily basis never existed. Wow. I mean, oh my God, dude. Come on. You don't have to worship Jesus Christ. Fair enough. But I mean, as a historical figure, I mean, I don't think that's in debate.
No, not with any honesty at all. Even like there was a time, obviously, where I did not believe Jesus was God, but I never for a minute questioned whether or not he existed. I mean, to say that all these churches and all these Bibles and all of this is been around for 2,000 years about some dude, that's crazy. That's crazy to me.
And Mies, you know what's kind of hypocritical about that? It's like they're saying, "Oh, we're paranoid. Oh, look at all the conspiracies. Look how deep the conspiracy." Then they're the conspiracy theorists saying that all these churches, all these mosques, all these Jewish people, they're the ones who are deceived, and like they're the conspiracy theorists, and they can't relate to us in some of the conspiracies, even though some of them are mainstream now. Like, come on, like they're trying to get their cake and eat it too, and all that kind of stuff. I think what Seek and Find's getting at, having a healthy questioning things, like being uncertain about things. None of us on this have physically met God, at least like, that we could, tangibly maybe articulate, but we believe that he's acting in our lives in various ways. But, it's like, so there's always going to be, in my opinion, an element of faith, but, questioning things is a lot different than making an absolute blanket statement that an individual has never existed when there's many, many sources and people who don't have an interest or reason to, support that, affirm it as well, and so that to me, I try and help the Christian ballers, even though I find them to be some of the most despicable people, because they should be on our side when it comes to the beast system and the evils. In the very least, they should be kind of fueling the flames, fueling our fire to bring that out. And then at least kind of slightly rooting for us, because the Bible has hundreds of verses that support a flat stationary earth. So they shouldn't be heartbroken if we're quote unquote winning. But some of them are like attacking us more aggressively than the atheist ballers. So I'm like, what the hell is going on here? To me, Christian ballers are flat earth proof. Like that just proves that retardation can take on extreme forms. God has a retard factory, and I'm being rude on purpose. And he's cranking out a lot of them, because if you can read the Bible and not acknowledge that in the very least it gives a slight bias towards flat earth, because there's no mention of an oblate sphere wobbling, tilted at 66.6 degrees complementary angle, hurtling through space unobstructed, and it's been doing that for billions of years. There's no mention of that.
Man did that though. Man, you don't think man did that is behind that deception?
Yeah, I mean, disgruntled vet and others, like I genuinely have to try and be humble. I come across very, very rough, and I don't mean to be. And I think people post stuff like that under my videos when I talk about God behind evil. And I just want people to know I'm not doing that to earn any points or whatever. I'm strictly just want people to know that the deception is sophisticated and it's clever, and we're allowed to give God credit for being clever, but if people want to believe, and feel strong conviction that man is behind this and architecting it, to me, it's cosmetic. I don't, and even like reincarnation to me is not a doctrinal point that I know for sure. So I just leave it be. I very much could be wrong, and I could be wrong in terms of how much fervor I put behind God being behind the deception. I just find for me personally, it has taken the burden off of getting angry at my family, at my, friends or my teachers or my colleagues. I know anymore. I have like stories when I was working in corporate America. Like I was so stressed. I did not understand why I didn't fit in, and I'm not saying this to get pity points, just as a form of encouragement to those out there who are working or not working and they don't feel like they belong. And I would say, it's okay. If you look at Seek and Find's avatar, there's not many of us out there. You might just be that one individual in a sea of people who just don't have the same views as you. They don't seem as uncomfortable or as scared or as worried or question things and all that. And I never understood why I didn't fit in.
Well, this is what I was getting at earlier, is that anybody can attest that, especially in Western civilization, that we are kind of like these people who are set on trends or whatever. One person wears something, or it's like all the kids will start wearing. It's like
yeah.
So the same thing I think is happening. It's the same thing I think they're trying to derail flat Earth with, is kind of making it a trend or whatever, trying to make it seem like a trend when it's really the truth. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, it's just a trend. There's just people out there, and they're just, it's not that at all to me. But like what you were saying is that, it's hard to even, kind of put it all together. But that's just the gist of what I'm trying to say, is that people are following behind other people, and it's kind of a plague, that is going on in Western civilization. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather all of us be wrong, but be sincere and ask questions and be wrong. I would much rather. I'm very thankful I went down.
There's nothing wrong with that, and we should all be more open about communicating. And good.
Absolutely, no, I think you would agree with me on this. I'm pretty sure that Mies Kang would too. It's like we're just asking questions, and we just don't want to stop really, going forward, and hopefully we can live on. And I think that's not a bad thing. I think that's to me is what this whole thing is more fundamentally. And I think even the financial markets and just corporate America and some of those struggles that I was talking about earlier. And it's not a pity party. It's just for me asking myself more fundamental questions like, what am I doing? Do I really feel creative here? Do I feel safe? Do I feel like there's a future? Am I learning anything? And I've asked myself more fundamental questions, and I realized it's not me. And it's not even necessarily even the people that I work with. It's not their fault either. This system is anti-creative. It just is, and I realized
exactly. Yeah, they sold us the dream. They sold us the dream that they got it all figured out or whatever, and it's like nothing for us to, explore or figure out on our own. So
Yeah, and I realize I have to be better at that. I'm not good at it, but it's not Sean G's fault. It's not Rumpus's fault. It's not anybody's fault. It's just this is the system that we're in, and I try and word my videos carefully. So I don't want people to get curse God. That's not a good idea. Even if he doesn't exist, it's a waste of time. But if he does, it's a bad idea to curse God. But it's okay to send our qualms in his direction, in his general direction, as best as we can. And again, I'm not the best at this, but I try and give people some insight into things that make me, just have a better experience in life and less bitter, towards people. When I realize, especially on these issues like the shape of the earth and education and financial stuff, only a major entity could orchestrate this. And so your point, very much humans are doing it. A lot of humans are taking advantage of this system and over leveraging an already evil system, and that's bad. And God may not be co-signing that, and he has, in my opinion, judgment set out for everybody who does that. But so I don't want to take away from people's, putting a fence around God and God is good and only capable of doing good, because we know that, that's a very, very biblical stance. But in my opinion, it does give me a lot of comfort knowing that all this deception and evil is orchestrated at a central place, and that central place is righteous, even though it doesn't feel that way. And so, it just for those people in those moments when it seems overwhelming, and unfortunately, I don't think it's going to get better, to take some amount of comfort in that, because it's given me a lot.
Yeah, and I had a point I wanted to make earlier. I forget. Oh yeah, about the trends. It's like this is what the backlash that you get when you're going against a trend. You know what I'm saying? And you're not doing what everybody else is doing. This is the backlash that you get, and it's unfortunate, but it's something that I've grown thick-skinned to. Like I said, I've been, like I said, pretty much everybody around me knows my views, so I'm not really, shy about it or anything like that. I just,
See, if I can ask you a question, not to put you on the spot. I asked Mies Kang this last week, and I didn't word it very well, but I'm just curious, and maybe something you can think about going forward is I was trying to paint a picture of an ideal world or like an ideal state, whether it be in the physical or in the spiritual. But like, what are things like in your mind, maybe now or just throughout your life, that you would explore and want to learn about or create or all that if you were unobstructed, by, the government or finances or, your strengths and weaknesses? Like, are there things that you think about that you would want to pursue?
You mean as in this world in the current state that it is right now?
No, like if you could create your own, like you literally, like I gave you the CPU of God's mind, and you could literally just kind of make whatever you want and, keep it PG. No, I'm just kidding. But, you could literally like just explore whatever you want, like what are some things or have you ever thought about this? What would you
I actually have thought about it a little bit. It's a very, very good question. I think it's a question that I've actually asked, to other people, because it's something that I don't think that we think about a lot because we're so entrapped and enthralled in the system or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a very good question, man. For me, my journey is like I said earlier, I just think about nature now, and being in nature. And I can't, it's hard for me to not think about, me personally, I think that this place is supposed to be a euphoric place. We're treating it like shit. It's turning into, you see it, it's insane, all the deception and stuff that's going on and all the killing. But I believe in, this is supposed to be a euphoric place, and I buy into the free energy thing, and that if we used all of our resources and minds towards something like that we could achieve it. They just don't want us thinking about that. So that's what I believe. Most of the deception is behind free energy, but they'll just laugh at you if you bring it up. It's something another thing that's just kind of scoffed at and laughed at.
Can you give us a layman's version of what free energy is, or just because I never really
the way I think about it, it's all around us. I think, between solar, wind, the the tide coming in and out, it's all
Yeah.
around us. And if you could just, all you need is more input than output, and have it, just feeding itself, some type of generator or something. And I think if everybody just came, and even magnetics, it's like you got magnetic energy here. It's like
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of things that we could use to come up with some type of generator. If we were pulling our money towards that instead of like NASA or anything like that, then I think it's something that's obtainable.
No, that's cool. I remember in undergrad, my buddy, this one who I told you is an amateur pilot, was talking about wireless power. And I looked at him, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like you're talking about like power being transmitted wirelessly, but now it's like they have
Well,
phones.
just look at how we can just send information in a split second like that. Like I really think the creator of this place set it up for it to be, we're supposed to be sharing everything.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
they just wanted to, chop it up and sell it to everybody and make the money off of it instead of us just sharing it. That's what I believe. So.
No, that's dope. I think like that, all that kind of stuff, like which, is very much can be felt, like is in nature and needs time for all of us to kind of explore, different things, different phenomena and all that kind of stuff. But I just thought it was funny about wireless power because I kind of scoffed at that. But now they have phones out. You just stack them on top of each other and they're charging one another. And, it's been done. It can be done. And I'm sure it's used in the military a lot, to charge drones and other things on the fly. And so there's so many things out there, man. Just with your answer, reaffirm that.
And I think people take the term free energy and kind of think about it like it has to be. No, if you were just generating your own power and you were powering your own house and everybody was being more self-sufficient in power and growing your own food and stuff, that is going to link up to free. That's going to make it become free energy if everybody starts doing that. That's what I believe. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's if there's a God who can create all these different, forces and things that literally keep us binded together supernaturally and physically, like on this earth, like the sun and moon suspended in space, doing its path and all that. What else is he capable of? I think just for us to, and that verse in Jeremiah 31:37 reaffirms that there's a lot that we could sit down with God and just ask about our own surroundings here. And it would take a long time to figure out, but it would be super cool to explore that. And then what else has he got out there? And literally God knows what else. And I say that respectfully,
ain't no telling, bro. Ain't no telling what's out there.
Yeah. Who knows? Like this is just one, even in the verse that I read, it talks about, Jesus says that he has all the hairs on our heads numbered. So what else can an entity do if that is a trivial thing for him to keep the number of hairs on billions of people's head numbered in real time? Because hairs are falling out. So he would literally know that every millisecond. And when one is about to fall out, he'll know the exact time. It's still very, very difficult for me to wrap my head. I'm not trying to get points from atheists, but it is hard to believe. I just don't think it's wise, in lieu of flat earth and other things, to stay there at that point and say that God doesn't exist because it's too complicated.
Well, for me, there's definitely intelligence behind this place. So to me, it's no doubter for me that there's a creator. I just come to, like I said, I grew up in a Christian household. I grew up believing in the Bible, but I do question it. Where in my walk right now, I question just the God of that Bible. And it took me a long time to get there because I was so entrenched in it. And I think that's, you can sit down and have this conversation if you like, but I just, think that it's something, like I said earlier, if you just think about it in terms of how can you fit something as awesome as the creator of this place? Yeah. Inside of that many chapters. For me, you can't, but
no, I think to me, I come here skeptical. I have to be careful just in my own walk to not get mad at God, because I have the tendency to do that. If you guys see my personality, I can be a little rough, and I'm like that with God. I'll be honest. Like I negotiate with God directly. I think, Seekify, one question. You actually said that you believe you had this strong fervor.
The crazy thing is, mind God, before you go, you know what the crazy thing is though? Even though I'm in that position right now, I probably do more things in that book than the average Christian. to be
No,
honest.
100%. Yeah. I mean, just your desire for truth and open to the flat earth, which obviously you're much more mature. It's not an easy thing, you know, and I'm very thankful that you have family around you that support that, because like I read earlier in this verse, there will be our family coming against us, and hopefully that doesn't happen for everybody. And I'm not here to get a pity party, but it happens, you know, and I think that that's a good thing. You know, I think that your quest for truth and all of ours fundamentally is just asking questions. And in my opinion, when Jesus says the truth will set us free, it's that we're free to ask questions. You know, we can't know everything. We don't know the entire truth, because even Jesus doesn't, because he doesn't know the timing of the end times. Look how humble he is. So all we're free to do now, in my opinion, is ask questions and nonstop, you know, and we'll get answers. And then in my opinion, the Bible does allude to places where people will get dominion even in the spirit world. So we'll have to take care of other people. And so in my opinion, that's God's very nature, is to give, because God is not able to take, because he gives everything. So one of the fundamental principles of God, just by definition, is that he's a giver. And so he likes that. And so in my opinion, he wants to create other people who like that as well. And so I think that there'll be room to do all this kind of stuff in the afterlife as well, if there is one. But I was going to ask you, Seek and Find, you mentioned that you had a very, very concrete understanding, strong faith, even prior to flat earth, correct?
In a creator, yes.
Yeah.
In God, yes.
Cool. That's great. That's great, man.
Yeah,
I think
where you weren't that, you kind of had that message, right?
No, that's why I resonate with you. I went in, I was in the church, I got out, you know, and I was in evangelical Christianity for many years. I got disillusioned with that. You know, I was just bouncing around, honestly, and I just gave up on Christianity, I'll be honest. And then lo and behold, flat earth came around, and I started looking into other conspiracies that are now true. So, you know, here we are. But no, I find that incredible. And I find people who doubt things, and even atheists, sincerely. Obviously, people who say Jesus don't exist, there's nothing really I can do with that, because to me, that's not even like historical. Or
so expound upon that, because I obviously question that. So,
well, I am skeptical of the God of the Bible, and I think it's okay to be, because I would say I was deceived before by being a bit too naive, because I didn't question the Bible. I didn't look into like certain things deep enough. And again, it was all in time. I don't regret those experiences. They were not evil people trying to kill me necessarily, or anything like that. But, you know, I didn't dig deep enough. I didn't treat the Bible in many ways like I do my other academic textbooks, and like drill down, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's okay. You know, I think it's very much okay to hold God to a high standard. And I just think we and me have to be careful to approach an entity like this, if we genuinely are trying to explore him being real, carefully, because we would have to treat him with at least as the amount of respect of the most respected person in our own life, and hopefully more, slightly more, or a lot more. But, you know, that's where we have to be careful, because the God of this Bible would obviously be brilliant and, you know, cautious of who he gives information to, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But I think just having a healthy amount of skepticism, to me, again, I don't think anybody can accuse Jesus of being dumb. You can say he doesn't exist. You can call him a homosexual. You can say that Christianity is a joke or whatever, but you can't say he's dumb. He says he has all the hairs on people's head numbered. So he wouldn't want to be around stupid people, not to be rude, but like he would want people to ask questions like, hey, even just basic things like, hey, you claim to love everybody, but like, look at all the pain going on. Like, why am I hurting? Like, why is there pain? Why am I struggling? Why do I feel like I'm not creative? Why do I feel like I have to be a homosexual in this earth? He wants people to ask those questions. To me, he's probably like, why don't you ask those kind of questions? Or like, you know, I doubt your narrative. Like you mentioned earlier, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. The book has been tampered by God knows how many Freemasons and stuff, like, or at least that's what we're told. And so I think that, you know, that's not wrong, you know, to ask those kind of questions. And I think one of the major qualms that I have with the God of this Bible is that he claims to want all of us to live according to the commandments, but we're not allowed to. We're forced to lie. We're forced to be effeminate, borderline homosexual. We're forced to be stupid in some of these interactions with people. And in my opinion, it's anti-God at all levels. And so this is my qualms with God, and I take it with him directly. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. How can you claim, and I'm speaking as if I'm speaking to him, how can you claim to want your people, whoever they are, to follow the law and be righteous in an environment that is completely anti-righteous at all levels? And so to me, I have a lot of issues with God. I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. But
it's tough. It's tough it's something to really think about, with the whole free will thing. And see, that's why a part of me just thinks that, or at least I lend my thinking to that maybe God, just stayed out of it. Maybe he didn't, come down and in the form of Jesus. Maybe he created free will and just stayed out of it. Now, there's no doubt, there's no doubt about it that evil is running rampant right now, and evil is winning right now. And even for the people who want to back this system, it's like it's just naive to not think that. Even if you look at history, like no empire stayed on top forever,
Yeah.
It's a normal, these people have a normalcy bias that everything is going to be all hunky dory all the time, forever, and it's not good. And I think that really when it comes to God, like I said, me where I'm at right now, I just believe that the creator of this place maybe just created it and kind of stayed neutral, and maybe the rest of it is just man trying to put their, twist on God. I'm not sure about it.
Actually,
but that's just where I'm at right now.
Deacon Fine. Sean G asked in the chat, do we have free will? If you have time, do you want to address that? What are your thoughts?
Do we have free will?
Yeah.
I believe we have free will, yes.
Yeah, and I think what you're getting at is there's a balance where we do, in the very least, appear to have free will. I'm free to get up, run around, jump around, do whatever I want, but somehow the whole macro narrative is set. And so this to me is a brilliant thing that cannot be understood. And to me is a beautiful thing about God, where he creates things and doesn't overwhelm them and force them. He allows them to believe that they're free. And I think that's a mystery to me. And so either side could be right. Either there somehow we have free will, but he's in a dimension that he's allowed to see it play out for beginning to end, and then he's able to infuse the narrative in it. Or
so you think that God is you really don't have free will? That God is just, the decisions that you make aren't really your decisions. That God, I know that he knows it. He knows the decisions that you're probably going to make, but.
I believe on the micro level, we do have free will, but on the macro level, let's just say.
I can agree with what you're
I can't, let's say the mark of the beast has come out. I personally can't stop that. Me, you, and me can't.
I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. We can't get together and just produce righteousness in a righteousness machine and stop things, certain macro things. And that's again, where I try and be of encouragement to people to not beat ourselves too much, because we're in a very, very difficult environment to be righteous, in the very least. I think no one would argue that, even non-religious people. And so, again, it's not stick your middle finger up to God, bad idea, don't. But, just give God some of it, that he's created this environment, and it's very, very unfair and very, very unfair for certain people, certain groups of people on earth. And, that's the way
it says to prove all things, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to prove all things, man. So
yeah, no, I think it's good. I think I would say in general, the Bible says that God rewards people that earnestly seek him, and that's what it is, and I think that happens at a different rate. And I think sometimes people, quote unquote, find God too fast. I would say my prior journey in evangelical Christianity, I found God too quickly. I thought I had the answers. I thought I had Jesus as my quote unquote personal savior, and I could recite to you many, many verses. I was, I was married for a time to a woman who was an evangelical itinerant minister, and I was living that quote unquote Christian life. But I found God too fast. I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't slow down. I didn't read all the other verses that support flat Earth, but and many other things. But I don't think, I would obviously encourage that, and I think if you keep asking questions like you are, and, you grow your channel and all that, we're here to support that and all that stuff.
And don't get me wrong, Monica, I do see the deception. Though. I do see a lot of people perverting, not doing what's in the book, acting as if they're doing what's in the book. I do see that. I do see that aspect of it. So, like I said, I'm just in a time right now where it's like you can call it hyper skepticism or whatever you want, but I do question whatever comes across my plate. So at least give it a second thought. It's like I got to give it that, and I think I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't. So
I think, and not to lump you in, but I think like we all have this tendency, and not to pick on Slick, but I think sometimes when he comes on and he's like, I only value my experience and all that, I get where he's coming from. To me, I feel like me personally, somebody who's been burned, and I'm not saying this to get pity, but like burned by like religion in the past, it's a smart move to go back to just your experiences, trust your intuition, trust logic and think things through and be patient. But it also can cripple us if we just stay there, and I think I'm speaking to myself, but it's okay, to like take a step forward, explore, learn new things, test the shape of the earth, and in different ways, and all that kind of stuff. The ballers are constantly looking for a gotcha moment. We've done that to them. But the God of this Bible is not like that. I think that that's comforting, and I think that we oftentimes lose that. And I think what these hangouts, at least for me personally, help refocus that that's not the way it is, at least with the God of this Bible. He's not looking for a gotcha. He's not looking for us to like just trip over and fall on our face so he can laugh at us. We would have to believe that the God of this Bible, who would go through all this trouble to make the earth and all the people on it, he would want to do it for a righteous purpose and fundamentally so we could be more like him. One would think, that is our hope. And so, and it's not an outlandish one, but that's why that's fundamentally, I would say, why these hangouts focused on Bible passages are good for me personally, because the whole environment, and I think you both would agree, this ecosystem is about embarrassment just for the sake of embarrassment. And again, I've been caught into that, trying to catch ballers and kind of make them look stupid and all that. And I need to not do that as much or at all. But God is not like that. One would think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Misha, you got something you want to add, man?
I'm trying to figure the best way to word it. I was just gonna say, like, being as brief as I can, I would caution you a little bit in your proving of all things, because I got locked in that what Shirag was just mentioning, the trusting only my experience, and that led me into wanting to prove the occult and trusting only my experience, and that earned me a great big smackdown from God in no kind of comfortable way. It opened me up to a realm that only Jesus was able to pull me out of. So questioning all things is great, but I allowed myself to get filled with pride and hubris and my hyper skepticism. And I would not wish that upon anybody else, especially someone that seems as genuine as you do.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I'll take that part. Appreciate it.
I think all the things that you're doing, Seek and Find, like just asking questions, even you looking up things to the ionosphere, you might think that that's a trivial thing, but I think you putting that question out there, and then the videos that you're posting and the stuff that, Mies Kang does and has done in the past, I think like all these things are good reference points and good for other truthers to give them courage to also pursue the truth. I think that if we can just, I'm not trying to say we try and like buy God's affection, but I think like small acts of charity, they don't have to be financially motivated. Just like I read today with this widow, I think are good ways to kind of ward off some of the evil, and again, I'm not trying to pay God off, but I think small acts of charity and kindness, even to people who are mean to us. And again, don't use me as an example. Certainly don't use me in those hangouts as an example, but
you coming in hot.
I do try and do this outside, of these. And I think, that's a very, very good thing. And I think in the days that we live in now, I feel like God, to all of his children, whoever they are, he's very aware of that, because we're living in a time now that promotes selfishness to a very, very high degree. And, all of this is good. There's intellectual charity. There's like just encouraging somebody else. There's, doing whatever you can to reaffirm that these things that we go through are being noted.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. And I would like to have, because I think that part of this flat earth globe earth thing is the extension. A lot of times when I get into the conversation, we end up talking about God. Like that's where the conversation leads to. And I think that it's important for us to be open about our beliefs, because guess what, guys? We all have beliefs, man, at the end of the day. So we should be open about them and talk about them and not be jumping down each other's throat just for having different beliefs, because we can all be wrong, and we should all humble ourselves and just be wrong sometimes and be okay with being wrong. That's what the globe, proponents don't understand about most of us. That it's like we admitted we were wrong. We came out, what I'm saying? We did that. Y'all are not doing that. We admitted that we at least think we are wrong. You know what I'm saying? So we had that moment, where we had to go through that. So go ahead if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, no, I can't be a baller even if I wanted to. They don't talk about the evil. I don't feel comfortable sharing ideas with a lot of them. Thankfully, there's a couple that are decent, but even them, it's weird sometimes. But I couldn't even, that's why they're making it easy. I have no choice but to run to the Bible. And I have no issues with that. It's a very, very good place to be, no matter what, especially in these days. But it's anti-learning, and I think the scary thing that we all might do as religious, spiritual people is project these things onto God and say, well, God's like that, well, God's going to ridicule me for asking questions. God's going to ridicule me for not having faith and this kind of stuff. We get no sense of that ever in the Bible. Would that ever be supported? God is looking for a humble and contrite spirit. If you look after your fellow man, like any person with common sense would do, God says in many, many places that you will have to press down and squeeze his gift just to be able to fit it into what he's planning to give to you. You will not even be able to be contained. And so that is the God of this Bible. Again, I think that he's very, very open to be explored from all different directions. And Mies Kang and I talked about that last week, where like everybody comes to God in different ways. I think like just hearing you, Seek and Find, say that a while back, where you've always believed in a creator, I honestly had to take a moment where I'm like, damn, like I'm still struggling. How can God make all
that's insane to me, because I can't, it's for me to think in the other paradigm. It's hard for me. I can't even put my mind there to think that there's no creator.
Dude, I wish I could take a bit of that from you, man. I need that from your channel, dude. You need to remind. I'm gonna jump on your live streams, dude. I need to hear that. So that's a beautiful thing,
man. As soon as I start learning this OBS, man, I've been, it's a snail's pace, but I've been learning here and there. I actually asked Sean to help me out. He said he's gonna help me out, but
yeah, he might be. He's in the chat asking you. Actually, he's in the chat asking you. So he
might be mad at me. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely want to start at least a couple hours here or there, doing my own live stream.
Yeah, do your thing, bro. I feel like a lot of this stuff is making up for lost time. Like there's been many, many years of my life where, again, I'm not saying that I was like a Satanist, like doing anything maybe excessively satanic, but I mean, I was not following God. I honestly didn't believe God exists. I just was in school. I was like trying to climb the corporate ladder. I was chasing women.
Why was that, if you don't mind?
I think it's just
why do you think you were walking around not believing in God? And
well, I went through a marriage with a woman who was like a staunch evangelical, and I just felt exhausted. I'll be totally honest. Like I was in the president of the Rice Graduate Christian Fellowship, so I was knee deep in evangelical Christianity, around people who are in generational Christian families. And I'm not saying they're bad people, but I was Bible study after Bible study after Bible study, believe in Jesus. We weren't allowed to ask scientific questions. I certainly couldn't talk about shape of the earth if I knew it at that time. I would have loved to have had that audience at that time, because they're all PhDs in physics and chemistry, but I don't think they would have let me back in the group. But, I just was, honestly, I was exhausted from religion. I'll be totally honest. Like, I just felt like I was walking around pretending to be a Christian, but it was just tiring, and then I was in a relationship, a serious one with a woman who, that was her vocation. That was her job, was to teach young people how to defend their faith. And so I was like swimming in the deep, deep, deep end of Christianity. And, and that relationship did not materialize. And I just had to take a step back. Honestly, I just, I didn't like party like a rock star, but I was like going out more, I was just, I was really like kind of starting from scratch, and from my own, with no biases, no religion, and all that kind of stuff. And working on my career and all that. So I didn't go to church. I didn't really read the Bible very often and all that kind of stuff. But, to me, it was a very, very good thing because I like wiped the slate clean. I think in many ways, that's what Flat Earth did for me. In many other ways too, is just, I wiped the slate clean. I don't trust people's opinions. I ask them questions. I ask what their intentions are. I know more about the corporate structure now and the way the world is. And, it's just not conducive to certain things. And I take a tremendous amount of comfort in that. I don't complain as much anymore, but I don't know. I think in many ways, like Seek, I literally started from scratch, and I was like, I didn't say F God, like explicitly, but, I walked away, and honestly, I'm very thankful that I did, because it was exhausting being fake, and just pretending to be a Christian. Evangelical Christianity, to me, as it's practiced, is one of the most satanic religions, because it states that you can say the sinner's prayer and God will accept you into heaven. And that's it. It's like that I know is not true. That is not true at all. The God of this Bible requires mercy, forgiveness, and charity, in the very least.
Yeah, I hear you. And like I said, I got a lot of respect for you, because I think, all the people that call you Poe, I think they're wrong for that. I think that I see you as a genuine person. I think you're, set out for truth. I got a lot of questions to ask you though. And I don't know how long you're going to be running this, but I think we should sit down and have a conversation, because I think for me growing up, it's kind of similar to you, but I always knew that there was something not right about this place. Like, even through high school, like, I was pretty popular. I played football, was chasing women or whatever, what I'm saying? The normal stuff. But I would always, think to myself, and I call myself a philosopher. I would always get to myself and just think about God, think about, all types of things. And I just think that I'm losing my damn train of thought, man. Fuck. What was I saying? Sorry about that. I'm losing my train of thought, man.
No, Seek, sorry, I'm back, man. I just had to grab a drink of water. But were you talking about just how, quote, being in the world? You were talking about like you're, having lots of friends and like chasing girls and stuff like that. Were you talking about a time where you were not as religious?
Well, like I said, I grew up. What I was trying to get at is that I always knew that there was something not right about this rap, about the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, just all the killing and stuff. I know my spirit didn't resonate with that. I grew up Christian. I always kind of just questioned things. Like, I never really even believed in space when these things were presented to me. I always had the critical thought kind of working, even though I'd never really acted on it per se. It was always kind of in the back of my mind. It was always there. I always thought about it. Like, something's just not right. Something's not right here. We're living it up over here. We're good over here. All these terrible things happened in the past, but we're kind of just in this drone mode. And like everything's hunky dory. But there's somebody dying right now. There's somebody being murdered right now. There's a kid being kidnapped right now. It's like, and my heart would always go out for things like that. I was able to put myself in those, or try to think about being in those people's shoes, and not just, think about my own life and, be a drone going to work. And that's all I'm thinking about is my own paradigm. I try to put myself in other people's shoes. And I was doing this at a young age. So
that's dope. I like it.
Yeah.
No, I would just make a note of that, Seek and Find. That, to me, what you just said has been one of the most comforting things that I've realized in the last maybe 3 or 4 years, that has brought a huge weight off my shoulders, is that, I used to always blame myself. I was like, why do I not fit in? Even as a young person, like, I was like the dark skinned person in a predominantly white town. I always felt maybe a little bit uncomfortable. Never really felt, and again, it's not a pity party. I was just saying, like, throughout my life, I always felt like something was off, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I couldn't talk about God growing up. My family's Hindu. I couldn't read the Bible. I had to hide it. And again, I'm not throwing my parents under the bus. I think this is just part of our journey. But I always felt like there was something not right with this place. And I constantly blame myself. And then I realized it's not my fault. It's like, and then I can't throw away all the things that I've done, wrong. Some of it will stay on my plate and I deserve it and will hopefully be forgiven. I approach God asking him for mercy. But yeah, it was a huge relief. And I want other people to feel that relief as well, that there's a lot of things going on in this world that are evil, unfair, satanic.
I want to stop you right there because I always, like I said, I always had this. I remember asking my parents, like I said, I grew up Christian, but I would ask my parents, like, what makes us right? And like, not to, like you said, you had Hindu or whatever. It's like, what makes them wrong? What if I was born over there and grew up in that? And it's like, how am I going to tell those people that they're wrong about God? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
at a young age, I had these questions. So this is the reason that I guess I'm at where I'm at now. It's just that I've always just kind of questioned. And when I look around and I see how people are using the Bible, for wrongdoing, it's just,
fair enough.
It's like, it's something that I can't really truly 100% endorse, even though I feel like there's truth in it. You know what I'm saying? But I don't trust the people, you know what I'm saying? So
no, I think it's funny that you say, not funny, but like the way, the reason it can be leveraged, in my opinion, I'm not trying to like preach to you, but just talking out loud, the reason it can be leveraged is because there is truth in it. And the reason we get ridiculed, and I'm not saying we deserve anything necessarily outlandish for this, is because we have truth. If us three were just going on Hangouts spouting nonsense, like gibberish, complete gibberish, no one would care. It would just fade out and they would go to the next fad or, next news story, and it would move on. But this truth is so powerful. And I think your point, and I literally have thought about that many, many times, where you mentioned, if you were in a different part of the world or you grew up in a different family, like, would you come to be who you are? Would you come to the truths that you hold now, whatever they may be? And I've thought about that many times. What if I didn't ever move to Canada or America? What if I grew up in India and I was in a village and, in a Hindu family, only allowed to be Hindu, only ever known Hinduism? Would I even know these things that I know now? And I think the beautiful thing about Flat Earth is how universal it is that God can use something that is so obvious to us that we're not spinning as a way to wake up, in my opinion, his children. Like I read earlier, he uses the sun, the moon, and the stars for signs and seasons. And so to me, God is doing this worldwide through YouTube on this panel right now, and others who are waking up to this reality. I believe it's a very, very powerful truth. It's part of our journey. I believe it's a gift. And I genuinely believe God is waking up people of all different backgrounds worldwide, possibly even as we speak. People are just driving around, just like that individual I talked to a couple of days ago, who just saw a laser test or saw the Netflix documentary or just heard somebody, on the street say it, and they look around and they're like, yeah, those buildings are not moving. They have not moved one iota since they were built. And so if we're not spinning, the earth can't be a ball. That's just what it is. And so
I saw this guy. It was on my YouTube, where I was scrolling through my YouTube, and it caught my eye, and I was like, let me check this out, because the title was something like, I think I just helped Flat Earth out. So I click on the title, or I click on the video, and he's like, this guy's just like going through it. He's like, man, I don't believe in the Flat Earth, man, but I took this observation and I'm seeing this lighthouse and I shouldn't see it, And there's a lot of that going on, and it just, it's something that they can't stop. Like I said, I think they're really trying to treat it like it's a trend, but it's not a trend, man. It's the trend.
Man, Anthony Riley saw something from 50 kilometers away. That's far, and he was on his belly. Like, he saw something, the shoreline, from 50 kilometers away, and Rumpus has to heat up his super loomer and loom the crap out of that. Right. Come on, man. 50 kilometers of flat water. What else do we have to give you guys? Like,
atheism is a belief. The heliocentric model is a belief. They just don't get it.
Hey, I'll go on some of those for a bit of comedy. We've been destroyed by atheism. I'm allowed to get a couple jabs in. I don't want to go over the top and, be evil, but the atheism has plundered us, and it's had enough. It's had its laugh. It's had its run. It was a good run, slow clap to atheism, but we got to move on from that, man. We want to be able to ask questions. We don't want to be scared about tomorrow. We don't want to eat garbage food. We don't want to breathe disgusting air. We want our kids, our family to be safe, and
just think if everybody was powering their own stuff, man. Everybody build a generator, power your own house, become dependent on the.
If I was the NSF, I would give you a $200 billion budget to explore that. You know what I mean? I'd print money all day. It's free.
You gotta worry about it. I'm gonna explore. I mean, what I'm gonna be doing probably just in my free time.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, man. If you ever, we'll have more hangouts. Whenever you're free. I think more of us are realizing it's better to just bounce ideas, technical or otherwise, around other flat earthers, because it's honestly, it's just not fun sometimes. People just accusing us of different things, and I'm not even playing the victim card. It's just a lot of it is just a waste of time, honestly. Yeah, man. So sorry I kept you guys so long, man. But if you guys have any thoughts or concluding thoughts, I got a bit long-winded, but feel free.
No, I'm about wrapped up. I got to get up early to go to work, so I was just waiting to jump in and drop that in there. But it was lovely talking to both of you.
Yeah, thanks again for jumping on me, Skang, and always enjoy your feedback.
Yeah, God, man, appreciate you having me on, man. Opening up the platform, let me come on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Let us know what you're doing next, and we'll support. So
yeah, like I said, I'm trying to get OBS down. Once I get OBS down, I will be doing live streams. Like I said, I don't have too much. I have a family, I have work.
Yep.
But, when I get a few hours, I'll fire it up, and just speak my mind, because I could just go on and ramble about, whatever.
Me too.
Yeah, and pretty much I got a little editor, and I'll do little videos from here to there when I get time to do that. Pretty much I'm probably just going to be putting my mind out there, asking the questions that come to my mind, and just letting people know what's inside this brain. You know what I'm saying? I'm not afraid to let that out. So
yeah,
thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
I already know for a fact it's infinitely more intelligent than people who believe their grandfather was a chimpanzee or a baboon. So don't hesitate. Yeah, we have a lot to contribute as people who are faithful. We're okay with being wrong, but a lot of us just no longer buy that narrative that the Big Bang explosion, pooped us all out, and my great granddad's a chimpanzee.
Right. We can get into those. I have my thoughts on evolution and the Bible and all that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. Appreciate it.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good night, man.
Right, guys.
Pleasure to hear from you. Yeah,
you too, man. Thank you.
Take care. So, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. Appreciate everybody coming by. Voynich, good to see you, buddy. Mind of Manny, always good to hear from you, man. Looked like we had a couple new guests. Flat Earth Math, good to see you, man. ETT, as always, man. Appreciate you getting those verses. Sean G, good to see you. ETT, I can send you my email, and then if you ever want to jump on sometime, you're welcome. If you can put your email, if you can send me an email, or just leave it under the comments of one of my videos, I'll just copy it and then I'll send you an email, and we can connect that way. I only use Google Hangouts through YouTube predominantly. All right, I'll shut it down. ETT, that's my email right there, bro. You can just shoot me an email, and I prefer to send the links out, through private email. Not that I have many people that, follow and stuff, but, if you ever want to have a hangout and discuss, end times, as it's one of my favorite topics, and I have a feeling from your channel, it's, it's on your mind a lot. So, I definitely think we're living in those days. So, discussing it never gets boring for me. So yeah, just shoot me an email. But okay, all right, guys and girls, thank you again for joining. Appreciate the Mies Kang and Seek and Find coming by. They have families, a lot of other things to take care of, but always enjoy hearing from them, and hope everyone has a good week. Take care. Bye.